Chapter 2041. Tang Guai and the system hadn't been talking for long when a piece of news was released online. Tong Huai and Xiao Lian were a couple. The photos that had been leaked earlier were actually taken by someone who had purposely taken only Xiao Lian and Jiang Yandong. Tong Huai was actually with them. At first, no one believed it, but after the club took out a photo of the three of them walking on the street, they had no choice but to believe it. Did that mean that there was nothing wrong with Jiang Yandong and Xiao Lian? And Xiao Lian and Tong Huai? How did these two people with stinky reputations end up together? No matter what, Xiao Lian and Jiang Yandong had proven their innocence this time. But they still didn't think that Xiao Lian was innocent. Instead, they thought that Xiao Lian was a white lotus and a green tea who couldn't hook up with Jiang Yandong, so he chose Tong Huai. After all, the most outstanding people in this team were Jiang Yandong, Tong Huai, and Wen Yunyang. Tong Huai and Xiao Lian's announcement that they were a couple didn't reduce the amount of scolding. Xiao Lian received the most scolding. On the other hand, the number of people scolding Jiang Yandong decreased significantly. After all, Xiao Lian already had a boyfriend, and Jiang Yandong's fans were pretty good. Even if he didn't do anything, everyone would still speak up for him. They didn't think that the person in charge made this decision because he hated Tong Huai. Tong Huai was good, and Xiao Lian wasn't bad either, but they weren't irreplaceable. Their reputations were ruined. Tong Huai originally had many companies looking for him to be their spokesperson, but now that his reputation was ruined, no one was willing. As for Xiao Lian, so what if she won the competition? Looking for a woman with a reputation as a mistress to be their spokesperson? That would be crazy. By putting these two together, it was clear that the person in charge was a little vicious. With her reputation ruined, he saw that Xiao Lian wasn't someone who knew her place. He might as well poach members from other teams. Recently, Lu Hong had helped him choose a few. He had also looked for some for himself and was discussing the contract. Tong Huai and Xiao Lian didn't know about this. Xiao Lian was troubled by these troubles, but Tong Huai was secretly delighted. At first, he was secretly delighted. Later, he realized that other than in front of outsiders, Xiao Lian would stand beside him. When no one was looking, she was the closest to Jiang Yandong. No, it should be said that they were very close. Especially in the club, when he saw the interaction between Xiao Lian and Jiang Yandong, he almost jumped up and beat them up. The club members soon realized that Tong Huai was out of his mind. Otherwise, why would he always go against Jiang Yandong? The person in charge was worried that he wouldn't be able to replace Tong Huai, so he found Tong Huai and Jiang Yandong to start a conflict. It was also during training that Tong Huai was deliberately distracted and didn't cooperate with Jiang Yandong's training, dragging him down. After a few times, the person in charge finally stood up and said, "Tong Huai, I see that you haven't been in good condition recently. Take a break. You don't have to worry about the rest of the training. After all, we have so many people in the club." In a well-established club, there would definitely be many hidden talents. For a moment, Tong Huai was dumbfounded. However, they couldn't refute the person in charge's words. Just like that, Tong Huai was replaced with the excuse of letting him rest, but in reality, wasn't this just freezing him? With his current reputation, no club would be willing to take him in. They wouldn't even take him if he didn't ask for money. In this industry, there was no shortage of young players who were good at gaming. By Geo, Noo, Nob, O1C, Quickware, supporting female lead, Calm Down Claw Peak. Chapter 2042. Tong Huai blamed this on Jiang Yandong. Although he was temporarily replaced by the team that trained with the other party, the club did not decide to let him and Xiao Lian end their relationship. The person in charge was not in a hurry to replace Xiao Lian. They had spent a lot of effort and money to recruit the top laner. So far, they had not found anyone more suitable than Xiao Lian. As long as she did not cause trouble, they would let her train with them. After all, it was still early. But the club did not let down their guard. They also chose a good backup member in case of emergencies. Tong Huayue and Jiang Yandong were not on good terms. Especially when he saw how intimate he was with Xiao Lian in the club, his face darkened. Xiao Lian looked at him and was even more reluctant to be with him. Unless the club asked her to, she did not dare to be with Tong Hui. Gradually, the team that they were familiar with started to distance themselves from Tong Hui. The current Tong Hui was annoying. He was always targeting Jiang Yandong and causing trouble for them. The sparring team was also very depressed. Tong Hui seemed to be very determined to kill Jiang Yandong every time. Even if the crystal exploded, he wanted to kill Jiang Yandong. Dear host, this Tong Hui must be crazy. If this goes on, he will be finished. After Tong Hui was replaced, the system was happy for 3 days and 3 nights. This guy was really looking for trouble. After finding out the reason, it wanted to treat the person in charge of the opposite team to a meal. It was a wise decision to replace Tong Hui. Isn't he finished? He has no reputation and is no longer liked by the club. The person in charge is also smart. He purposely let Tong Hui renew his contract so that he could not be recruited by the other clubs. At the start of the training, he kicked the person to the sparring team. Tong Hui did all this himself. He did nothing wrong. Yeah, he's pretty good. He was brainless and liked to talk nonsense. This was the consequence of offending a capitalist. Tang Guo was living a comfortable life. Ever since she appeared in the opening song of the international competition, she was invited to perform from time to time. As long as it wasn't too long or too far away, she would agree. It was not bad to stand on the stage like this. In her free time, she also tried to compose her own original piano pieces. Even though she would be at a disadvantage if she participated in the piano competition in her current state, it was still a good idea to let everyone know about her original composition. Later on, many businessmen approached her and invited her to be their spokesperson, but she rejected them all. Even though he was rejected, he wasn't angry. Everyone knew about her relationship with Lin Xian, so who would dare to offend her? Later on, they found that whenever the Lin family invested in a large-scale program, Tang Guo would appear and occasionally show her skills. Gradually, everyone's evaluation of her was that she was a girl who simply loved the piano and played it without any distractions. As long as Lin Xian was not training, he would go with Tang Guo. If they were training, he would bring along 2 bodyguards, a stylist, and a makeup artist. He would then have to trouble Madame Chen to accompany Tang Guo. With Madame Chen watching, Lin Xian was more assured. Days passed, and the people in the club were surprised every day. They had a feeling that they would have a chance to participate in the international competition. Baijio, Noo, Nob, O1C, Quickwear, supporting female lead, calm down. Peak. Chapter 2043. Lin Xian's efforts back then were not in vain. Not only did he analyze Jiang Yandong, but he also analyzed the entire team. He analyzed all the members of each team. Then, he shared his insights with everyone one by one, found their own weaknesses, and constantly improved them. With Lin Xian's addition, their strength grew. In order to better showcase their team's strength, they would contact the teams of other clubs to play friendly matches. Of course, not many people were willing to do it for free. The young people of the Lin family did not lack money. They used their funds to hire people to compete with them. When the other clubs saw this situation, they understood that the Lin family's team probably wanted to enter the international competition. Other than Jiang Yandong's team, the Lin family's team had competed with all the other famous teams in the country. Later, with the Lin family's influence, they used the excuse of a vacation to go overseas and compete with the teams of various countries in advance. This operation was suggested by Lin Xian. It had to be said that it was very flirtatious. After all, they did not lack money or funds. Besides passion, those who defeated the international competition also had fame and fortune. Under such a huge temptation, who would not be willing to compete with them? It was worth mentioning that Tang Guo had always followed them to the country, not the other way around. Instead, she had received an invitation to perform. Anyone who had heard her piano music could understand the uniqueness of it, especially her original compositions. It was simply a taste of life. When Lin Xian and the rest returned, Tang Guo had become popular in the art world. Her music was not a performance type, but it could make people feel as if they were there and reminisce about it. As soon as they returned, Tang Guo received a message from the system. It should be considered a good news. Tong Huai has been arrested and is currently in detention. What happened? Tang Guo was very curious. How did that bastard end up in detention? The system paused for a moment and said, he realized that not only did Xiao Lian not like him, but she even liked Jiang Yandong. He felt that he had been cuckolded. He was so angry that he quarreled with Xiao Lian. In short, it was not a happy ending. Tong Huai was unwilling to give up, so he came up with a crooked idea to get the girl first. Although Xiao Lian fell for the trap, she still had some tricks up her sleeves. In a moment of desperation, she escaped, and then she fled to Jiang Yandong's place. The two of them got together, right? That's right. After that, Tong Huai was captured. It was Jiang Yandong who called the police. He felt that he had given Tong Huai too many chances. This time, he must teach him a lesson. Is Xiao Lian planning to sue him? I don't think Xiao Lian has that intention because she remembered that Tong Huai had lent her 5 million yuan. She couldn't bear to do that. She also knew that Tong Huai had made a mistake because he liked her. Jiang Yandong planned to sue, but was stopped by Xiao Lian. Now, he should only be locked up for a few days before being released on bail. That's a pity. His mouth is cheap and he even did that kind of thing. Why didn't he just lock him up for a few years? No matter when, Tang Guo had always thought that men who use such despicable means to bully girls should be cut off from their roots. Xiao Lian's benevolence might leave behind a disaster. Of course, it had nothing to do with her. In less than 2 days, the system sent her another message. Tong Huai had been fired by the club. The person in charge had found something that could be used against him. How could a person who bullied a female teammate stay? Baijio, Noo, Nob, O1C, Quickware, supporting female lead, calm down. Peak. Chapter 2044. There was no way to hide the fact that Tong Huai had been fired. In the age of information and communication, the slightest movement would be known. There was no need to hide this. Although Tong Huai's family wasn't bad, they weren't big shots. After leaving the club and the protection of capital, he was basically a useless pawn. Who would be willing to help him suppress all this? So he was fired. How did he get fired? Everything about his performance in the club was stripped clean. Nothing was left. Of course, this was also because the person in charge didn't block the news on purpose. He was a narrow-minded person. If you were capable, like Jiang Yandong, who was irreplaceable, he would definitely swallow his pride and support you. But someone like Tong Huai could be replaced. As long as it didn't affect the big picture, he would think of a way to kick him out. Tong Huai's matter being exposed was also within his expectations. The club had already prepared a way to remove themselves from it. In an instant, everyone was calling for Tong Huai's downfall. They could tolerate Tong Huai's foul mouth and bad character, but they definitely couldn't tolerate him using such despicable means to deal with a girl. No matter who the girl was, the majority of the netizens couldn't tolerate such behavior. Who would dare to use Tong Hui, who had wanted to make a comeback? Moreover, the Team Alliance banned Tong Hui from competing for the rest of his life. They definitely couldn't allow such a person to continue polluting the esports scene. Tong Hui's esports career was over. Tang Guo breathed a sigh of relief after watching this series of farce. She felt a little good. System, so did he. Although Jiang Yandong and Xiao Lian were together, they didn't dare to announce their relationship to avoid trouble with the club. They would only be intimate when no one was around. After leaving the club, Xiao Lian secretly followed Jiang Yandong back. There was no such thing as an airtight wall in the world. The secret relationship between Jiang Yandong and Xiao Lian was also exposed. But at this time, a new season of competition had begun. The person in charge who hadn't replaced Xiao Lian was filled with regret. It was all his fault. He shouldn't have saved that 1 million. Hearing all kinds of strange noises at night, his eyebrows were about to burn off. What was going on? One was Tong Hui, and the other was Xiao Lian. They were both troublemakers. How many of our substitute members are good support players? Xiao Lian had always been a thorn in the hearts of the people in charge. It had not been easy for everyone to forget Jiang Yandong's black mark, but now it was impossible to wash it clean. Now, there were a lot of people online who were against Xiao Lian's participation in the competition. She had really stirred up public anger. If it was just a little noise, it could still be suppressed. No one liked it. His club was different from other clubs. They were nurtured like celebrities. After all, if they had a good personality and were famous, they could earn more money by taking on endorsements. At the end of the day, which capitalist wouldn't want to earn money? Could it be that they were doing charity for these esports players? 2 of them are not bad. Lu Hong hesitated for a moment and asked, managerly, "Are you planning to replace them?" "That's right. Look at what's happening on the internet now." Speaking of this, he was a little upset with Lu Hong. If Lu Hong hadn't said that Xiao Lian's talent was good, he wouldn't have been tempted to recruit her. "If we switch people, Jiang Yandong." By Noa, Nob, O1C, Vertex. Chapter 2045. You think he'll be unhappy? Manager Li was unhappy. Even if he's unhappy, I'm unhappy. Look at what they've done. If Jiang Yandong didn't have a fiancé, he and Xiao Lian would have been a great couple. Even though he knew that Jiang Yandong had a fiancé, his team had gone crazy and decided to couple the 2 of them when he wasn't paying attention. It almost killed him. This matter angered him so much that he fired the person directly. What was the use of a team like that? He had to clean up the mess. I'm just worried that Jiang Yandong won't be happy and will screw up. For a woman, is he really going to ruin his career and give up on victory? It had to be said that Manager Li understood Jiang Yandong's mentality very well. If Jiang Yandong didn't maintain his legend of invincibility, losing a match wouldn't be a big deal to him. However, he had already enjoyed countless glories. No one would be able to take it if he was suddenly pulled down. Manager Li thought that even if Jiang Yandong wasn't happy with Xiao Lian being replaced, he wouldn't make a fuss. Instead, he would focus on the competition. Lu Hong was only a coach. He could only do something about training and selecting players. There was nothing else that he could do. He could feel Manager Li's anger towards the 2 of them. If it weren't for the fact that Jiang Yandong was irreplaceable, Manager Li would have replaced him. He sighed. Then I'll call those 2 over. You can take a look. Not long after, Tang Guo received news that Xiao Lian had been switched to the reserve team. That's fast. System, yeah. Their manager is really good. I don't think he was the one who did those stupid things before. He's made a few wise decisions recently. Especially that one against Tong Hui. It was so smart that no one could find fault with it. Moreover, Tong Hui only hates Xiao Lian and Jiang Yandong. He has no complaints towards Manager Li. It was really sinister. No matter what, he's the boss of the entire club. Previously, the operations of the team were handed over to the team under him. Who would have thought that something would go wrong? Later on, when he saw that the situation wasn't right, he took over it himself. Now, Tang Guo was looking forward to what kind of big news the other side would reveal. The netizens were also very satisfied that Xiao Lian had been replaced. His impression of Jiang Yandong's team had improved, and his attitude towards the club had improved by quite a bit. Xiao Lian felt terrible. She looked at Jiang Yandong with tears in her eyes. Jiang Yandong, why didn't you speak up for me? We've been fair and square, and I've never broken anything. You should know that after training for so long, how can you change people just like that? She was really indignant. The esports scene was also her dream. When Manager Li announced the results, Jiang Yandong didn't say anything against it. Xiao Lian, that's not what I meant. Based on the current situation, Manager Li's approach is the best. Did you see the comments on the internet? If you continue to be exposed to the public, it will only cause more misunderstandings. You should train well. You might be able to play again next season. Of course, Xiao Lian didn't care about that. She cared that Jiang Yandong didn't speak up for her. Jiang Yandong didn't speak up for Xiao Lian not because he didn't have any complaints. It was because he knew that Manager Li was a person who couldn't change his mind once he had decided on something. There was no point in arguing with him. Baijio, Noo, Nob, O1C, Quickware, supporting female lead, calm down. Peak. Chapter 2046. After an argument, it was easy to leave an unpleasant impression on the other party. If the person in charge of the club wasn't Manager Li, he might have been able to threaten him with his position. However, Manager Li had a powerful background. He was the son of a big family. Even though Jiang Yandong was young and had achieved a lot in the game, he knew that he could not afford to offend someone like this. His plan was to perform well in the next competition and try to leave a good impression on Manager Li. After winning the national and international championships, he would talk to Manager Li about Xiao Lian returning to the team. His relationship with Xiao Lian had indeed caused a lot of trouble for the club. He also felt that after winning the previous competition, the number of companies looking for him to endorse had decreased by half. It was good that Xiao Lian was taking a break for a season. He would work hard and achieve another victory, continuing the legend of being undefeated. When that time came, Manager Li would be happy and would not make things difficult for Xiao Lian. It would be easy for her to come back. Xiao Lian did not think too much about it. She only knew that Jiang Yandong did not speak up for her. Hence, when she saw Jiang Yandong's silence, she pushed the door open and ran out. Don't chase after me. I want to calm down. Xiao Lian's voice rang out, and Jiang Yandong stopped in his tracks. He really did not chase after her. He felt that she really needed to calm down. He had been troubled recently. For the upcoming competition, he could not afford to be distracted. Jiang Yandong did not know that Xiao Lian, who was upset, actually went to Wen Yunyang to pour her heart out. This time, Wen Yunyang also felt that Jiang Yandong had gone too far by not helping Xiao Lian. Although, he also felt that objecting would not be of much use. However, he felt that since Jiang Yandong had chosen to be with Xiao Lian, he should at least try to fight for her. In the end, he had agreed. It would be strange if Xiao Lian was not upset. Xiao Lian and Jiang Yandong had become more distant recently. After the team's training ended, she did not go on dates with him. When Yunyang was smarter than Tong Hui, he did not go out with Xiao Lian directly. Instead, he called, texted, and ordered takeout for her. Suddenly, he became the only person who gave Xiao Lian warmth. No matter what happened, she would look for Wen Yunyang. As time passed, Wen Yunyang saw that it was about time to confess his feelings to Xiao Lian. In the end, he was naturally rejected. Her original words were that she only treated him as a friend, a gentle big brother, but the one she loved in her heart was Jiang Yandong. That's right. Recently, she and Jiang Yandong had reconciled. Tanghua. Keep your distance, understand? Look at her boyfriend. He refused to chat with any girls. Every time, he would use the same excuse to go back to accompany his girlfriend. When Yunyang was smarter than Tong Hui. Every time he looked at Xiao Lian, he would put on a hurt and helpless expression, causing Xiao Lian to feel guilty. Sometimes, when no one was looking, Wen Yunyang would be a little intimate with her. For example, hugging, shaking hands, or even kissing her. She could not reject him. When he heard that she was short of money, Wen Yunyang did not hesitate to transfer a few million to her. Xiao Lian did not know what to do. Jiang Yandong's team and the Lin family's team represented the north and south respectively. Lin Xian led the team and defeated all the teams in the north. During this period, the opening song of every match was played by Tanghua. Later, the fans found out that the piano songs she played were all original compositions. Moreover, the names were actually related to Lin Xian. Anyway, it was a way to encourage her boyfriend to work hard. The majority of fans expressed that they did not want to watch this public display of affection. Jiang Yandong's team encountered some trouble. The capital behind last year's runner-up team used a dirty trick and kidnapped Xiao Lian. The world is still a little small. Tomorrow ends. Chapter 2047. Even though Xiao Lian was quite skilled, it would only take a little brainpower to deal with her. They wanted Jiang Yandong to withdraw from the competition immediately and let Xiao Lian go. When Tanghua heard this, she was not surprised. Even though the plot had been brought forward, the original plot did have such a thing. The club definitely could not let Jiang Yandong withdraw from the competition. They did not even let him know about this to prevent him from affecting the entire team because of Xiao Lian. It was not the first time that Jiang Yandong had been affected by Xiao Lian. In the end, it was when Yunyang who realized that something was wrong and took the initiative to secretly save Xiao Lian. He managed to save her, but both of them were injured. When Yunyang's injury was more serious. He had been shot in the leg and could no longer participate in the competition. Not to mention the competition, if he was shot in the leg, he would not be able to walk properly and would become a cripple. Luckily, he was treated in time and there was no risk of amputation. When Manager Li found out, he was furious. At that time, he had endured it and did not fire Xiao Lian. After all, keeping this news from him had already made Jiang Yandong unhappy. Luckily, there were still a few people in the team who were good in the mid lane. However, when Manager Li looked at Wen Yunyang, Jiang Yandong, and Xiao Lian, it was as if he had been fed a mouthful of shit. Tanghua retracted her thoughts. In the original plot, Wen Yunyang was also injured and could not participate in the competition. However, as Manager Li had said, there were a few substitute members in the team who were good in the mid lane. After so many things had happened before, Manager Li had thought of this. He would often let the other substitute team members take turns to train with them. Lu Hong had objected to it previously, but now he could not help but think that Manager Li was very wise. The competition continued, but Manager Li blocked the news. He even used the excuse that the team members were in contact with external matters and that it would affect their competition, so he temporarily confiscated their phones. Jiang Yandong did not have any objections to this request. After all, the previous competition was because he had seen some negative comments online. He believed that the club's approach was also correct. This way, everyone could play without any distractions. At this time, when Yunyang, who was lying in the hospital, had just woken up. When he knew that he would be a cripple forever, he was stunned. When he found out that something had happened to Xiao Lian, he didn't even think about it. It was as if he had been bewitched. He had to save her. Previously, he only knew that his leg was indeed injured, but he didn't expect it to be so serious. He found a doctor and asked if there was really no way to recover. Maybe you don't understand. If it were any other injury, it would be fine, but this bullet wound is very destructive. It's already very lucky to be able to save one leg. When Yunyang found it hard to accept that he had become a cripple in his prime. No matter how gentle he was, his eyes were gloomy. In that instant, he truly regretted his actions. Why did he act so impulsively? He clearly knew that this person did not come with good intentions. He should have calmed down at that time. Perhaps calling the police was a good choice. Why did he go there alone? When Xiao Lian arrived, she saw Wen Yunyang's gloomy expression. When she found out that Wen Yunyang was going to become a cripple, she was very upset. She ran over and cried by his side. Xiao Lian's tears were quite useful. It made Wen Yunyang forget that this was her fault. She was the one who had caused him to become a cripple. After that, Xiao Lian stayed by Wen Yunyang's side in the hospital every day. She only paid attention to the competition when she returned to her room. Baijio, Noo, Nob, O1C, Quickwear, supporting female lead, calm down. Peak. Chapter 2048. The opening song of the national finals was still Tangua's piano piece. Jiang Yandong looked at the person on the stage in a daze. He had never seen this side of her before. The stirring melody was constantly played by her. Jiang Yandong's heart was always calm. He was even not used to it. In his impression, Tangguo was always running behind him. When had he ever seen her shine like this? Even without that pair of eyes, everyone's gaze still fell on her. For a moment, Jiang Yandong did not feel good. Especially when the song ended. Lin Xian, who was wearing the team uniform, still held a beautiful and bright rose as usual. He went up to her and held her hand. Then, he placed the rose in her other hand. Brother Xian, do your best. You will definitely win. Tangguo also wore an earpiece. Everyone could clearly hear her encouraging words to Lin Xian. Then, Jiang Yandong received many strange gazes. Jiang Yandong felt these gazes and understood what the other party was thinking. That's right, they were probably wondering why Tangguo didn't play the piano during his competition when they were engaged in a fiancé relationship. She did not say encouraging words to him on the stage. He did not know that Tangguo could play the piano. Jiang Yandong tried to calm himself down. At the moment, he was impatient. It would not be good for the upcoming competition. Tangguo had already been led down by Lin Xian. She was even led directly to their team. The entire team was talking and laughing with her. Lu Hong sighed. What a difference. Why did Jiang Yandong break off the engagement with her? Manager Li saw this scene and could not help but ask Lu Hong. Today was the national finals. There would be several entertainment programs at the beginning. Not only would there be programs at the beginning, there would also be programs at the end. They were all programs with this game as the theme. Lu Hong did not know what to say. He could only tell the truth. I don't know either. This girl plays the piano very well. Why didn't I think of such a thing before? Manager Lee really wanted to scold in his heart. The people under his club were really useless. This was such a good thing to hype up. Jiang Yandong was also a stupid pig. What was wrong with this girl? It was said that his eyes and hands were injured because of Jiang Yandong. Fuck, what a good persona. The girl was injured for the sake of her lover, but she still did not give up on her dream. She was willing to use her music to liven things up for her lover, and she stood on this stage again. The boy promised to take care of her forever. Knowing her dream, he chose to use this method to let her stand on the stage again. If this was known to the world, they would be an immortal couple, a talented man and a beautiful woman. What a bunch of idiots. Manager Lee was trembling with anger. Why did he have to provoke that Xiao Lian? What a bunch of good-for-nothings. While he was abroad, they actually came up with a fake CP. Lu Hong silently felt the cold air around Manager Lee. He thought in his heart. If Manager Lee had been in the country before, there would not have been so many problems. Manager Lee watched as Tang Guo was invited to sit at the side. Lin Xian's team members hurriedly gave her something. Why didn't Jiang Yandong bring her to the club to play in the past? The more Manager Lee thought about it, the angrier he became. If he brought her here often, I would have thought of this long ago. Lu Hong shrunk his neck. Jiang Yandong did not like her. He probably saw her as a burden in his heart. How could he bring her here? Baijio, Noo, Nob, O1C, Quickwear, supporting female lead, calm down. Peak. Chapter 2049. Manager Lee, take a look at this. Actually, the reason why she is standing here today is because there is someone who is willing to help her. Lu Hong felt that if he didn't say anything on behalf of Tang Guo, he would really die of guilt. Looking at how well Tang Guo was doing now, he felt that Jiang Yandong had treated her badly in the past. He was only telling the truth to Manager Lee. He didn't want Manager Lee to bring trouble to him if anything happened. Manager Lee wasn't someone who couldn't differentiate between right and wrong. He was someone who could clearly differentiate between right and wrong. However, in the face of benefits, he would turn a blind eye. If he could get someone to create some hype, the other party wouldn't be willing. Of course, he didn't think that Manager Lee would be so stupid as to offend the Lin family. However, he still had to explain clearly to the other party why Tang Guo had changed. He didn't want the other party to be fooled by Jiang Yandong's persona. At this moment, he had already decided to resign after this competition. He had entered this industry for his original intentions. He had almost forgotten his original intentions. Perhaps he had climbed too high in the past few years. Therefore, he decided to give up everything and work for a small team or a small club. He wanted to get in touch with a group of young people who had just entered the industry and were passionate about esports. Without the halo of Jiang Yandong's name, he might be able to live a better life. He wouldn't have to do so many things that would make him feel guilty just to stay in this small place. He was just a person who loved esports. He couldn't be like Manager Lee, whose original intentions were profits. He could make any concessions and compromises for profits. All in all, he didn't fit in here. Manager Lee held his phone and kept scrolling. These were all posts on the internet. It was an article titled Lin Xian's Girlfriend Pampering Style. This was compiled by the netizens. In any case, it was all about what they saw and knew. Manager Lee was originally burning with anger. After reading this article, he was fed a stomach full of dog food. He looked at the innocent Lu Hong and said with a cold face, "This Jiang Yandong really isn't wronged." He looked at the members of both sides and said, "Today, Jiang Yandong is going to lose. It's not an injustice." Lu Hong was shocked. He never thought that Manager Li would say such a thing. Jiang Yandong would lose. Would Jiang Yandong lose? Would the undefeated legend be defeated today? Manager Li didn't say anything. He turned around and left, muttering, "It's better for this club to take in more fresh blood. Young people, be more energetic and have more competition. This is the future of this profession. Only then would they be able to make more money." How could one Jiang Yandong do it? If something were to happen to Jiang Yandong today, he would basically be crippled. No. What he needed to do now was to look for those unorthodox gamers and recruit them at a high price. It would be best if he could coax them into signing a contract to sell themselves. When Lu Hong heard this, he began to figure out what was going on. What Manager Li meant was that he needed to find some fresh blood to replace Jiang Yandong's position. Thinking about it, the esports industry was such a young profession. Jiang Yandong was already 20 years old. He had less than 2 years left. Tang Gui didn't know that Manager Li already had a lot of ideas. Now, Lin Xian was officially on stage. "Brother Xian, if you win this round, I'll give you a kiss when you come back." Peak. Chapter 2050. Lin Xian's eyes lit up when he heard that. The other teammates thought, "You can do that." Then, when the competition started, the audience present and those watching the live broadcast realized that Lin Xian was very aggressive today. He had beaten Jiang Yandong until he was forced to retreat. This was a little unusual. Jiang Yandong already knew some of Lin Xian's tactics. They weren't this aggressive. He had discussed with his teammates how to break Lin Xian's game. He had not expected the other party to be so aggressive. Within a few minutes, they were in a disadvantageous position. In the end, Lin Xian won. The camera captured Lin Xian's excited eyes and his ears were a little red. This was different from before. Lin Xian had won so many matches before, but he had never shown such an expression. Then, the host couldn't help but interview him and ask if he had beaten Jiang Yandong. He was especially excited. Lin Xian said, "I'm quite happy to win the competition. But just now, Xiaogua said that if I win this match, she will kiss me." Then, he rejected the interview and hurried to Tanggua's seat, looking like he was going to receive his reward. Host. Audience. Jiang Yandong's heart sank. Before he could recover from his defeat, he saw Lin Xian run to Tanggua. Tanggua seemed to be a woman of her word. She hooked her arm around Lin Xian's neck and kissed his forehead. The host followed and heard Tanggua say, "If I win the second match, I will kiss you twice." Host, she doesn't believe that a kiss can win the competition. Jiang Yandong's heart was cold. He didn't know what to feel. That was his ex-fiancée. Now, in order to encourage Lin Xian, she actually said that if he won the competition, he could kiss her. Although he didn't hear what she said, it was probably similar to the previous match. Impossible. He had been careless in the previous match. Lin Xian could forget about winning the next match. Little did he know that he was already anxious. He was different from his usual calmness. He could no longer accurately judge how strong his opponent was. Sure enough, the audience realized that both sides had changed their strategies in the second match. Jiang Yandong's fans were a little worried when they saw Jiang Yandong's slightly impatient behavior. On the other hand, Lin Xian was not as impatient as he had been in the previous match. On the contrary, he was not anxious at all. However, if you thought that he had not done anything, you would find that Jiang Yandong was at a disadvantage again. Everyone quieted down. They had never encountered such a situation before. After all, in their hearts, no matter how powerful Lin Xian was, he could not compare to Jiang Yandong. After all, Jiang Yandong was an invincible legend. Do you know what Tang Gua and Lin Xian were talking about? The host took the opportunity to walk around the audience and reveal a secret to them. After all, when the time came, these might be collected and broadcasted on TV. How could they miss out on such a wonderful scene? Everyone was speechless when they heard that Tang Gua had said that she would kiss Lin Xian twice in the second round. How could a competition be like this? This match lasted for 20 minutes. In today's fast-paced competition, 20 minutes was already very long. This was also because both sides were very strong. When the audience saw Jiang Yandong's crystal explode, they all stood up in silence. The legend of a sure loss was finally broken. They all looked in Lin Xian's direction. They saw him hurriedly running to Tang Gua's position after greeting Jiang Yandong's people. So impatient. Baijio, Noo, Nob, O1C, quick wear, supporting female lead, calm down. The Peak. Chapter 2051. Then, they watched as Tang Gua cupped his face and kissed him twice. The originally solemn atmosphere was instantly broken. The host quickly ran over to Lin Xian to interview him. He asked him how he felt and how he felt after winning. He even asked him if he had predicted that he would win today. Lin Xian, I'm happy. I predicted it. The host then asked him if he had anything else to say. Lin Xian, I hope that Xiaogua can continue to use this method to encourage me in the following individual competitions. The host, after these words were heard by the audience, they didn't know what to do. Their expressions kept changing. It turned out that Lin Xian's image in their hearts had collapsed. They hadn't expected Lin Xian to be such a person. Naturally, in the following individual competitions, it was as if Lin Xian was the only one present. Jiang Yandong's momentum was gone. Even if he had good skills, he was no match for Lin Xian in this situation. But Tang Guo believed that even if Jiang Yandong was in good condition, he wouldn't be able to win against Lin Xian. This time, Lin Xian's team had won first place. They could finally participate in the international competition. The entire team was overjoyed. The Lin Corporation also hadn't expected that their children would achieve such an achievement. They were so happy that they had even fulfilled their initial promise. Then, all the stores under the Lin Corporation had a discount. They even wrote the reason for the discount. It was to celebrate their children's victory in the national competition. If they didn't have anything to repay them, they would give everyone a discount. Wasn't it just a discount? They didn't rely on this to make money. Now, the citizens knew that the sons of the Lin Corporation had won first place. The elders were so happy that they wanted to repay the citizens. Such a grand occasion had never happened before. Then, all the citizens, including the Andes who woke up early every day to buy groceries, were thinking about how they hoped that these outstanding young men would win again in the next competition. This time, the international competition wasn't held in their home country. In less than 2 days, Tang Guo followed Lin Xian and the rest to go abroad to adapt. And Jiang Yandong hadn't recovered from his defeat when he heard the news that Xiao Lian and Wen Yunyang were injured. Previously, when Wen Yunyang didn't go to the mall, he asked around. Everyone told him that something had happened to Wen Yunyang's family and he had no choice but to come back. Only now did he understand what an accident meant. It was basically Xiao Lian being kidnapped. After Wen Yunyang found out, he went to save Xiao Lian and lost himself. Now that one of his legs was crippled, he could only be a cripple for the rest of his life. He looked at Wen Yunyang, whose face was pale and who had lost a lot of weight. For a moment, he felt complicated. It was no wonder that Xiao Lian had been taking care of Wen Yunyang. He was just angry. Why didn't the club tell him that something had happened to Xiao Lian? Everyone told him that it was Manager Li who had blocked the news, fearing that it would affect his competition. Jiang Yandong did not accept this reason. He felt that no matter what, such a serious matter should be notified to him. Manager Li simply couldn't stand Jiang Yandong anymore. Now that the legend of invincibility was gone, Jiang Yandong's wings had hardened. In that situation, even if he told the other party, what could Jiang Yandong do? Would he be like Wen Yunyang, rushing over to save people and turning himself into a cripple? Shouldn't this kind of illegal matter be solved by directly calling the police? Rushing over to seek death, he was simply a stupid pig. Manager Li didn't ask the other party if he didn't want to work anymore. Although he was angry at Jiang Yandong, he also remembered that the other party had won glory for the club. His strength was not bad, so he didn't want to fall out with him. He didn't expect that Jiang Yandong would be the first to shed all pretense of cordiality. You don't want to work anymore? Yes, you can hang me out. I don't want to stay here. There's no point in staying in this place that doesn't have any human feelings. Manager Li took a deep breath and resisted the urge to scold him. All right. Peek. Chapter 2052. Manager Li was a man of his word. The next day, he put up Jiang Yandong's name. Although he had lost a match, Jiang Yandong's strength and reputation were still there. When he was put up, all the clubs were shocked. Jiang Yandong, no way. After the confirmation, the other clubs were discussing how to recruit Jiang Yandong to their side. In the esports world, winning and losing were common. This time, they all saw clearly that Lin Xian's team's coordination was really good. It was practically perfect, and their fighting skills had improved a lot. In addition, Tang Gua had used her beauty to make Lin Xian fight. Jiang Yandong's loss was nothing. He was still young, and there was still a chance. Therefore, in less than 2 days, Jiang Yandong was signed by another team. In less than 2 days, Manager Li received Lu Hong's resignation. At that time, Manager Li was smiling as he brought in a few young youths. He even said to them, "Our club is still capable. As long as you are willing to work hard, it is not impossible for you to be better than Jiang Yandong in the future." Because of the previous failures, Manager Li decided to talk to those youths himself and coax them to sign with the club. In the early stages, he had to keep an eye on them. The people he had chosen should not be wrong, right? Not only that, he also planned to change the management team of the club and the people in the marketing team. These idiots were really too stupid. They actually used the entertainment industry's method of promoting a couple with anyone they saw. What a fucking couple. To promote a couple with Jiang Yandong, they had to be someone like Tang Gua or someone who could stand at the same height as him. To promote a newcomer to the industry with him, wouldn't they be promoting him to the ground? They didn't know shit, and they had to learn that. Since that was the case, why not just recruit a team from the entertainment industry? Manager Li was thinking when he heard that Lu Hong wanted to resign. He looked at him and said, "Coach Lu, think about it more. I still believe in your ability." Manager Li was a little reluctant to let Lu Hong go. He pondered for a moment and knew what Lu Hong was thinking. "Coach Lu, what do you think of these young people I found?" Lu Hong asked them about their situation and found out that they were all from the district ahead. They were all 15 or 16 years old youths. Previously, he had learned that they were all passers-by with dreams of esports. Not bad. I was fortunate enough to watch a video of their summit match. Coach Lu, I know that you have always been interested in esports. But where there are people, there will be disputes. No matter where you go, it will be the same. Manager Li patted Lu Hong and whispered, "You might as well stay with me. Let's not talk about what happened before. Aren't you interested in those young people? It doesn't matter where you teach. What kind of results you teach, isn't it all up to you? Other than management matters, you still have to deal with the strategic issues. I've never interfered, right? Go back and think about it. Once you leave this place, you won't have so much freedom. Jiang Yandong left, Xiao Lian was fired by me, when Yunyang also left, and I took over the management team. Coach Liu, I recognize your ability. It's up to you whether you want to stay or not. After Manager Li finished speaking, he placed the resignation letter in Liu Hong's hands and patted him on the shoulder. I already had a hunch that we would lose this competition. It's normal to lose. I'm not disappointed at all. This is also a wake-up call for us. There's no such thing as an undefeated legend. It's just a gimmick. Go back and think about it. Peak. Chapter 2053. In the end, Liu Hong didn't leave. He stayed behind to train the youngsters. He realized that Manager Li was a man of his word. The previous teams had all been replaced by him. This time, the people who came over seemed to be much more professional. Every time something happened, he would react very quickly. Liu Hong looked at the energetic youngsters in front of him and felt a little more confident. This time, not only did he have to train them how to play the game, but he also had to remind them how to be human. He didn't want to see another Jiang Yandong. When Liu Hong was training the youngsters in the club, he heard that Lin Xian had led the entire team to win the championship in the international competition. He watched the live broadcast. The opening song was still Tanggua's performance. Every time they won, Lin Xian would ask for a reward in front of her. The reward was a kiss. TSK, the world is degenerating day by day. Youngsters these days are really unscrupulous in order to win. Hearing Manager Li's words, Liu Hong didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He had always thought that people like Manager Li reeked of money, were unreasonable, and would do anything for money. Now he understood that it wasn't like that. Although Manager Li loved to earn money, he wouldn't do things that were devoid of conscience. He wouldn't treat his team members badly either. As long as they were obedient and trained well, he would give them equal opportunities. As for outstanding people, resources should be given to them. Manager Li said to him, if everyone is equal, is it fair to those who are more talented? Of course, resources should be used to nurture those who are more talented. That's their value. If they're mediocre and don't work hard, who's to blame? This isn't a charity place. You're doing it for your dreams, I'm doing it for money. There's no conflict. If you're not suitable for this place, then it's best to change careers as soon as possible. He thought about it carefully. It was like that. On the day they won the international competition, Lin Xian proposed to Tanggua. Of course, she agreed. The two of them stood on the stage hand in hand and were watched by the audience all over the world. After Jiang Yandong was signed by another team, he was still involved with Xiao Lian. Xiao Lian also felt very guilty towards Wen Yunyang. She was hesitant and didn't know what to do. Then, when Wen Yunyang went abroad, he didn't inform her. He only sent her a message and called her. It's over. Wen Yunyang's cold voice came through the phone. You don't have to thank me, and don't think that I'm doing this for your sake. I'm not that selfless. I just want to find a quiet place. I don't want to get involved because of your relationship. When Yunyang, what I said is true. You didn't like it, but you liked my love and gentleness for you. She wouldn't hesitate because of Jiang Yandong. Instead, she would marry me directly. You're not with Jiang Yandong because you feel guilty. I'm crippled because of you. Even now, I still have to be the catalyst for your relationship. You too, just let me go. I'll leave you too, okay? After hanging up, Xiao Lian couldn't contact Wen Yunyang anymore. Even Jiang Yandong couldn't. The two of them hugged each other and talked to each other for a while before they got together. One day, when Jiang Yandong went to the competition, Old Man Zhao's sentence came out. Even though Xiao Lian handed in a lot of things, Old Man Zhao only escaped the death penalty and was sentenced to life imprisonment. After all, the things he stole were too many and involved a lot of things. Xiao Lian suddenly thought of her grandfather. She felt very helpless and instantly thought of Jiang Yandong. Baijio, Noo, Nob, O1C, Quick Wear, supporting female lead, calm down. Peak. Chapter 2054. At that time, she didn't think too much and forgot that Jiang Yandong was playing that day, so she called him. In this team, they didn't keep their phones during matches. At that time, Jiang Yandong had just finished a match. When he received the call and heard the crying, he didn't care about anything else and ran away. As expected, the whole team was furious. When the two of them remembered, it was too late. Jiang Yandong paid the penalty and was chased away by the club. Xiao Lian felt guilty. Jiang Yandong thought that someone would want him since he was so good, but no one was willing to sign him. There were rumors online that Jiang Yandong, the legend of his generation, was ruined by Xiao Lian. Jiang Yandong eventually became a broadcaster. He had a lot of fans and was skilled. Plus, he was good-looking and had a decent income. Xiao Lian was sad for a long time when Old Man Zhao was sentenced to life imprisonment. She had been plotting how to break him out of prison. The two of them lived together. Xiao Lian didn't do anything and had to rely on Jiang Yandong for everything. Over time, the two of them hated each other. This time, during a live stream, he had gotten into a big fight. It really made people eat a big melon. Jiang Yandong was unruly and a little arrogant. He didn't respond to his fans and still had his old arrogance. Over time, his popularity also dwindled. But his family didn't lack money and he wasn't at his wits' end. It was just that he didn't feel good about it. When Jiang Yandong's parents came back to attend Tanggua's wedding, Xiao Lian went with Jiang Yandong. That day, another incident happened. Madame Chen recognized Xiao Lian as the thief and couldn't help but say it softly. Jiang Yandong's parents were innocent people. When they heard it, they went to investigate. When they came back, they objected to the two of them being together. Xiao Lian thought that they were looking down on her and argued with Jiang Yandong. When Jiang Yandong heard her say bad things about his parents, the two of them got into a fight. In the end, they broke up. Xiao Lian, who was living on the streets, met Tong Hui, who kindly took her home. For a moment, Xiao Lian was so grateful to Tong Hui that she forgot about the past. This time, Jiang Yandong wasn't around, and Tong Hui wasn't on guard either. Not only did he succeed, but he also took a lot of photos. However, he had underestimated Xiao Lian. She was slightly different from the other girls. When her body recovered its strength, she killed him directly and fled. She fled to the depths of the mountains and forests and hid there for several years, but she did not stop practicing martial arts. Over the years, she had become a wanted criminal. As long as she hid deep in the mountains and forests, she would never be caught. However, she still wanted to save Old Man Zhao. However, many years had passed and the city had changed too quickly. She had no choice but to sneak into Jiang Yandong's house, but she was discovered again. Jiang Yandong looked at her pitifully and thought of all the things that had happened in the past. He had taken her in and not reported her. He had even given her a fake identity and given her money. He warned her not to cause any more trouble. As for the villa next to the Jiang family's house, it had already been sold. The Jiang family and family Tang had less and less contact. Jiang Yandong had never thought that Xiao Lian would break out of prison and get caught. Not only that, the police even came to his door and accused him of harboring a murderer. They wanted to take him back as well. In the end, Xiao Lian went to prison and Jiang Yandong was sentenced to a few years. Host, was the original owner's car accident really an accident? The system's voice sounded. It had carefully analyzed the plot of this world over the years and found a loophole. Tanghua said, no, how could it be an accident? Who was it? Tong Hui. The system suddenly understood. According to the plot it had analyzed, it made sense. Tong Hui was indeed a crazy person. He was the kind that would never know pain if he did not get hurt. 10 years later, with Lin Xian and the Lin family sponsorship of the medical field, the country's medical field continued to expand. Finally, the medical equipment and medicine could be used to operate on Tanghua. After Tanghua's eyes recovered, Lin Xian hugged her waist and rested his chin on her forehead. Xiaogua, do you want to participate in the competition? Why are you bringing this up? In a few years, I'll be 40. It's not too late. There are people who only become masters at 80. Xiaogua, if you want to, you can go. I like to see you standing on the stage and shining. Tanghua giggled. Coach Lin, you're already so old. Aren't you afraid of being laughed at for saying such things? No, everyone is used to it. Okay, but you have to come with me. I've been taken care of by you all these years. I'm already a giant baby. I don't know how to put on makeup, comb my hair, or dress up. Coach Lin, if I become a cripple, you have to take responsibility. Take responsibility, take responsibility. I'll take responsibility for the rest of my life. Peak. Chapter 2055. Senior Tang, what's wrong? Hearing this voice, Tanghua immediately came back to her senses. She looked up and saw an ordinary-looking boy looking at her. The other party was wearing a simple t-shirt, jeans, and sneakers. It was the simplest outfit for a man at the moment. She glanced at the suitcase in his hand and then looked around. She was surrounded by young men and women who were full of vigor. Most of them were in groups of about 10 to 20 people, pulling their suitcases and following the people in front of them. Looking at the signs around her, she instantly understood that this should be the time for new students to register. This average-looking boy with an extraordinary temperament should be this year's new student. And just now, the other party had called her senior, which meant that she was also a student of this school. However, at this time, she didn't receive the memory, so she didn't know the specific situation. But while she was deep in thought, she felt the boy in front of her scanning her body. Although his gaze was hidden, she still felt it. The other party's eyes swept across her face quickly. She wouldn't miss the surprise and excitement in his eyes. New by Chinese Network. Nepsp. Furthermore, the other party was still sizing up her figure. With that fiery gaze, anyone could guess what this person was thinking. It turned out that he was a pervert. Senior Tang. Although Li Fan really wanted to admire beauties, there was a big sun above his head. He had no interest in standing under the sun. He only wanted to settle the school matters as soon as possible and make new friends. As for this beautiful woman in front of him, he would ask for her number first. He was also very surprised to meet such a beautiful senior as soon as he arrived. How could he have known that the woman in front of him had changed? She was no longer the same person. I'm a little dizzy. As soon as Tanghua finished speaking, her face turned pale. It looked like she was really going to faint. Li Fan also didn't expect that it would be such a situation. Thinking that the weather was so hot, he must have received many new students today. It would be strange if he didn't faint from the heat. Of course, he wouldn't let go of such a good opportunity to perform. He quickly went over to support Tanghua. Tanghua took 2 steps back. Junior, I might need to rest for a while. It's okay. Your health is more important. Where's the infirmary? I'll send you there. I want to go to the bathroom first. Just now, Tangua had already found the location of the washroom. God was on her side. It was not far from here. Therefore, she pointed into the distance and said, I'll go over first. Why don't you wait for a while and rinse yourself with cold water? You'll be fine soon. It was just too hot just now. Li Fan expressed his worry and wanted to send her over. Tangua didn't refuse. As long as that perverted pig's foot didn't reach out, everything was fine. After entering the washroom, Tangua chose a cubicle. Tongzi, receive the memory. That Li Fan gave her a very bad impression. His naked gaze was always scanning her body, which made her feel very uncomfortable. It was better to receive the memories as soon as possible and understand this world clearly. All right, Madam Host, I've seen the storyline of this world just now. You should be prepared for it. Destroy the 3 views. Tangua was puzzled. She wanted to see how he would destroy her worldview. New by Chinese Network. Netpsp. Com. After she finished reading, she felt terrible. Just as the system said, the storyline of this small world really destroyed her worldview. All of this started from an ordinary boy called Li Fan. That's right, Li Fan was the male lead of this world. Want to chat with more like-minded people about, cross quickly, female supporting character, calm down. Talk about life, find a confidant, peak. Chapter 2056. Li Fan was born in an ordinary family, and his parents were only ordinary employees of a company. Although the salary was not high, it was enough for the family to eat and drink. As long as there was no serious illness or pain, this family was the most ordinary in the world. The only thing that worried them was Li Fan. Li Fan had been very introverted since he was young. From childhood to high school, his grades were ordinary in class. He was not good with words and was somewhat timid in front of others. His personality was actually related to the couple. Generally, families would feed their children and send them to study. They never paid attention to psychological problems. They thought that giving them food and money to study was their duty. A boy with an ordinary appearance and a thin body was the most bullied in school. His living expenses every week, other than the money that was charged into his meal card, were all threatened to pay protection fees. Li Fan was just like his name, really ordinary. His grades were not good, his height and appearance were ordinary. He was obviously not popular with girls. Even if he had a crush on someone in his heart, he did not dare to confess. If nothing unexpected happened, he should have spent his high school years being bullied by bullies and ridiculed by others. Perhaps he would have been admitted to a very ordinary university, finished the university step by step, and went to work in an ordinary company. In the end, he would go on a blind date with a very ordinary woman like him, marry her, give birth to an ordinary child, and the child would continue his life. But at the end of the second semester of high school, something happened during the summer vacation. The supplementary classes were requested by the class, and the parents did not have any objections. Naturally, Li Fan could not escape. However, during the supplementary classes, he could not live in school and had to go home every day. One day, when he returned home from the supplementary class, he heard a cry for help. He carefully went over to take a look and realized that it was those hooligans who were dragging their class beauty. The class beauty was actually also his crush. Looking at the other party's desperate look, he did not know where the courage came from. He rushed over and pulled her back. Of course, the result was that he was beaten up. The class beauty was smart and called the police during that time. Those people secretly hated him and beat Li Fan even more ruthlessly. When it was about time, those people quickly fled. Li Fan lay on the ground on the verge of death, and it was at this time that his fortuitous encounter came. He had a piece of safety jade that Mother Leek gave him. It was actually just a few dozen pieces of good stuff. He asked for it in the temple and said that it had been consecrated. Li Fan listened to everything his parents said, so he had always worn this piece of safety jade on his body. Coincidentally, those people who were beaten up until they vomited blood, and the blood dripped onto the jade, starting Li Fan's legendary life. When Li Fan was discharged from the hospital, his entire style changed. He became much better looking, taller, more outgoing, and even his skills were not bad. Those bullies who used to bully him had all become his underlings. Wu Shui, of course. Anyone who offended him would not have a good ending. Chapter 2057. Although countless women were willing to be with Li Fan, they didn't even care about fame and fortune. But in this world, there were always people who were unwilling. The original owner was one of the few who was unwilling to be with Li Fan. Before the original owner went to university, she was already engaged and had a fiancé named Zhang Xing. Family Tang and Zhang family were family friends. The two of them knew each other since they were young. As for whether they had feelings for each other, they might have some, but it wasn't strong. The original owner didn't hate Zhang Xing. Zhang Xing's character was also passable. He was a gentleman. As for why she chose to be engaged to Zhang Xing in the end, there were 3 reasons. Firstly, they had to know each other's background and the relationship between the two clans existed. Second, in this circle, there were very few young people she was familiar with who didn't look for women outside. They all changed girlfriends very diligently. On the other hand, this Zhang Xing, since young, they had been in the same school. He was rarely unfaithful and half-hearted. This was very rare. He was also good to the original owner. Third, compared to other suitors, she could feel that Zhang Xing really liked her. Since she didn't have anyone she liked and had a good impression of Zhang Xing, his character was good, then getting engaged was also a good choice. In this world, even if they were married, they could still be separated in the future if they weren't suitable. It was better to give it a try. With this kind of character, when meeting someone like Li Fan, she naturally wouldn't bow down like other women. When Li Fan saw the original owner for a day, he was shocked. Later on, he appeared in front of her, but the original owner's character was indifferent. She didn't like him and kept a distance from him. This made Li Fan very upset. Later on, when he found out that the original owner had a fiancé, he felt even more unlucky. Once, when Li Fan was pestering the original owner, the fiancé, Zhang Xing, happened to bump into him. He mistakenly thought that the original owner had cuckolded him. At that time, Li Fan also tried his best to explain, but the more he explained, the worse it became. He understood men too well. He knew what to say to provoke Zhang Xing and make him angrier. Sure enough, Zhang Xing left with a straight face. Because of Zhang Xing's actions, Li Fan would make the original owner sad. Seeing the other party's true colors, he would break off the engagement with the other party and be with him. Unexpectedly, the original owner said to him with a cold face, "Even if I don't be with Zhang Xing, I won't be with you." Everything you said just now infuriated Zhang Xing. You know very well what you're thinking. I didn't expose you before because I wanted to keep a distance so that you could understand. I didn't expect you to push your luck. At that time, one could imagine how angry Li Fan was. This was the first time a woman had unhesitatingly dissected his heart and left him no face at all. New by Chinese Network. NEPSP, mobile phone, :/m. After that, the original owner left and told him not to waste his time because it was impossible between them. It wasn't that she didn't see Li Fan's ability. He had just entered university for less than a year, and he had already opened a company in a bustling manner. He had even befriended quite a few big shots of the upper class. But did she care about these things? she had always been an indifferent person. She only agreed to get engaged with Zhang Xing because she did not want to put her family in a difficult position. She could be with anyone as long as she thought he was qualified. Li Fan was flirting with those women every day. Long ago, she had already asked someone to investigate. How could she be interested in such trash? Of course, she had also investigated the changes in Li Fan's high school, but she didn't know the reason at all. This was also why she had always turned a blind eye to it. She was afraid that if she really angered the other party, it would cause trouble for her family. She had never thought that Li Fan was so narrow-minded. Want to chat with more like-minded people about quick transmigration, female supporting character, calm down. Talk about life, find a confidant, peak. Chapter 2058. Li Fan hated the original owner, but the original owner was the woman he wanted, so he didn't want to do anything to her for the time being. Therefore, he put pressure on the Zhang family. For the sake of his family, Zhang Xing took the initiative to break off the engagement with the Tang family. At the same time, he said that he wanted to withdraw his investment in a big project that they had invested in together. For this project, the Tang family had invested more than half of their assets. If they dared to do this, wouldn't it mean that the two of them were engaged and would be in-laws in the future? In order to protect themselves, the Zhangs acted willfully, causing the family Tang to face a crisis. If they couldn't keep up with the cash flow, they would face all kinds of problems. At this time, the original owner's close friends told her that Li Fan was very powerful. As long as she went to find Li Fan, he would definitely be able to help her. As for the conditions, she would definitely be willing to become Li Fan's woman. Hearing the advice of the people around her, the body's original owner instantly understood that Li Fan had also taken in her close friends. As soon as she thought of this, she felt disgusted. In fact, there were many people in the school who wanted to become Li Fan's woman. The original owner also didn't understand why these women were like crazy. Li Fan is so disgusting, sharing a man with so many women, don't you feel disgusted? Later on, Li Fan's various women came to look for her. In any case, they were all trying to persuade her to agree. As long as she followed Li Fan, her family would not be at a disadvantage, and it would be even better than before. New by Chinese Network. Netsp. She still didn't agree. Later on, the shareholders of Tangkor and the family, other than her parents, all tried to persuade her to agree. She cast her gaze on her parents. At that time, her heart was cold and she felt powerless. At that time, she thought that as long as her parents persuaded her to agree, she would agree. However, after the Tang family's crisis was resolved, she would go and die. Once she died, everything would be over. Let her serve Li Fan, dream on in her next life. If he agreed to resolve Tangkor's crisis, then he would be returning the favor of them raising him. She never thought that her parents would be even angrier than she was and take her away from Tangkor. The family of 3 moved into a small house. As for what would happen to Tangkor, her mother had said at the time, let them do whatever they want. After all, they weren't the ones selling their daughter, so of course they wouldn't feel bad. Even if it's a little bitter and poor, it's still better than selling my daughter. When Li Fan heard this news, he angrily vented all his anger on Tang Corporation. Not long after, Tang Corporation went bankrupt. They didn't know if it was a matter of face, but Li Fan didn't come to find trouble with them. But from time to time, they would bump into each other. The other party always had a high and mighty look on his face, hugging his women left and right. That look seemed to be asking her if she regretted it. She regretted not following him. A few decades later, Li Fan and his women were still young and beautiful. The original owner had never married and was already old. Li Fan saw that she did not have the slightest bit of remorse and lost his patience. The senior sister that stunned him back then had already become an old woman and was about to be buried. Since then, the original owner had never seen Li Fan again. She didn't know what happened to Li Fan after that. After reading these memories, Tang Guo admired the original owner of this body for being an ordinary girl, and also had a good impression of the family Tang couple. To give up everything and not be willing to let his daughter suffer, this kind of courage was not something an ordinary person could have. XIN She One Chinese Network. Calmly Fan thought that the original owner was not living well, but in fact, other than not living a luxurious life, she was living quite well. Her only regret was that her parents had to accompany her through hardships. Although her feelings were indifferent, her heart was not made of iron. She remembered the people who were good to her. She wanted to chat with more like-minded people about quick transmigration, female supporting character, calm down. Talk about life, find a confidant, peak. Chapter 2059. Host, do you want to destroy your worldview? The system asked secretly. It already felt that the host was probably sharpening her skills. It just didn't know how the host was going to play this time. Tang Guo let out a low chuckle. Help me share the fun things in this world with your friends in the group. Let them see this weirdo. Okay. The system's favorite thing to do was to replace Tang Guo and share the exciting stories in the small world with the friends in the group. Then it told Tang Guo about the reaction in the group. However, when he entered the group, he found that something was wrong. Originally, there were a total of 12 people in the group, including Tang Guo, the group leader. But now he found that there was one more person in the group. He quickly looked at the list and compared it carefully. Apart from the name Ji Xiaoxi, which had turned gray, there was one more person called Wen Yaowei. He didn't have time to share the story and quickly exited the group to tell Tang Guo the situation. There's one more person. Tang Guo was surprised. Ever since Tang Guo took over this interdimensional communication group, she didn't care about anything else. Because the result of her and the system's research was that this group was formed by energy. The research showed that as long as the people in the group didn't die, there would be people chatting and sending red packets to the group. The group would also exist forever. How long could she live? Anyway, she had traveled for so many years, so she wouldn't die anytime soon. The other friends were either in the celestial world, the magic world, or the interstellar world. It was easy for them to live for thousands of years, so they didn't need to worry about the group disappearing. Now that there was one more person, she was a little curious. She quickly entered the group and saw an unfamiliar name, Wen Yaowei. She thought about it and realized that she had never heard of it before. But she was a little happy because although she was the group leader and had a lot of power, the only thing she couldn't do was to recruit people. Otherwise, she would have pulled in the people she knew to play with her. Now that there was a new member, it meant that the group would be lively once the right person was recruited. Sure enough, she saw that Ziyun and the others were asking about the new member. However, they talked for a long time, but the new member didn't seem to have any response. Internet Mobile /M. Nepsp. Nepsp, M. Calm, Chi Shao, maybe the newcomer is shy. Why don't you try sending a red packet? My sister had told me before that as long as there was a red and white, she would know who was lurking around. Tang Guo, Ziyun, that makes sense. I'll give it to you. Wen Yaowei, this name sounds like a girl. What attracted girls was nothing more than beautiful jewelry and dresses, but what attracted girls the most was youth and beauty. Tang Guo, I have to say, Brother Ziyun is right. She didn't say anything and waited to see what would happen next. Ziyun, based on my speculation, I don't think he's from a high-level plane. If it was someone from the same field, they would have found this group very quickly and asked about our situation. My guess was that Wen Yaowei was from a normal dimension. Mo Yuntian, just give me a red packet. Don't be so sentimental. General Billy, that's right, Ziyun, hurry up with the red packet. If the newcomer runs away, we'll be angry with you. Margaret, yes, I don't know if the school belle has arrived in the new world. I don't think so. She hasn't greeted us yet. When she comes, we must tell her that there's a newcomer. I want to chat with more like-minded people about. Chapter 2060. This time, Ziyun did not waste any more words and sent a red packet. It was a special red packet. Inside was the beauty pill that he had just mentioned, the kind that mortals could use. Then the group became quiet, waiting for the newcomer to receive the red packet. Tang Guo remembered that there was still Li Fan waiting outside. She looked at the time and saw that 10 minutes had passed. She let the system look at the situation in the group and walked out of the bathroom. As soon as she came out, she saw that Li Fan was a little anxious. She maintained the cold and indifferent character of the original owner. After all, she did not want to talk too much with people like Li Fan. The other party's gaze now made her feel even more uncomfortable. Senior Tang, are you okay? I'm fine, let's go. After bringing Li Fan through the process, Tang Guo rejected Li Fan's invitation to eat and exchange contact information, and left. Although he did not get her contact information, Li Fan was not discouraged. He believed that it would not be long before this cold senior became his woman. Tang Guo felt the other party's determined gaze and almost vomited. How shameless. She used the excuse that she was not feeling well and returned to the dormitory. Today, to welcome the new students, the 4 people in their dormitory came. At present, the other 3 should still be busy. Thinking that 2 of the 3 would become Li Fan's woman, Tang Guo felt a little speechless. As for why only 2 people succeeded, it was because the remaining girl was too ordinary and Li Fan was not interested in her. But that girl had always been secretly in love with Li Fan and did not get married. Hearing this news, Tang Guo quickly entered the group and found that everyone was discussing enthusiastically. Hello everyone, what are you discussing so enthusiastically? Then everyone told her that there was a newcomer, but the newcomer did not speak and left after receiving the red packet, which made them feel very strange. Tang Guo sent everyone a red packet of food as usual, and then she found that the newcomer also received a roast chicken and waited silently. She wanted to see if this newcomer was good or bad. The brothers and sisters in the group were no longer noobs. If it was a good one, everyone would probably take care of it. If it was a bad one, then wait for the other party's name to turn gray. When Yue looked at the plate of roast chicken in front of her and the fragrant white pill in her hand and was a little dumbfounded. She thought she was dreaming. She raised her hand with difficulty to rub her eyes. Feeling the pain from her arm and cheek, she finally believed that everything in front of her was not a dream. She had casually clicked on 2 red packets just now and got a pill and a plate of roasted chicken. The aroma of the steaming hot roast chicken wafted into her nose, causing her to salivate. No, she couldn't eat it. She was prepared to starve to death. Thinking of her own experience, she smiled bitterly. A month ago, she was still a famous celebrity. Who knew that an accident during filming would cause the fake fire to turn into real fire, causing 70% of her skin to be burned? With the medical standards of this world, it was impossible for him to recover to his original state. It would be a miracle if he could keep his life. After finding out about her disfigurement, the businesses all terminated their contracts with her, and the roles that were originally agreed upon were all gone. The company no longer cared about her, and her manager also left her. She might as well not have parents. She had no one to rely on, and it was by chance that she became a superstar. Now that her face was disfigured, her family knew about it and did not even call her. The movie king's fiancé had also broken off their engagement. Looking at herself in the mirror, she chose to die. It would be easy to cause trouble for the police if she died outside, so she might as well starve to death at home. When Yue looked at the roast chicken and swallowed her saliva. It smelled so good. Then she looked at the white pill in her hand. It was also very fragrant. She had been hungry for 2 days and had no strength. She almost couldn't control herself and wanted to eat the roast chicken directly. She didn't know that Tang Gua and the people in the group were waiting for her reaction. What's going on? She didn't say anything after receiving the red packet. Maybe she's just an ordinary person. She can't believe it. Maybe she's still in shock. Let's wait a little longer. Tang Gua was also very patient. She was calculating how to deal with Li Fan while waiting for Wen Yue's reaction. Chapter 2061. When Yue originally planned to throw the roast chicken into the trash can. After all, she was going to starve to death. However, she could tell that the chef had put in a lot of effort into making the roast chicken. It would be a pity to throw it away. She also had the white pill in her hand. She had gotten these 2 things from the red packet. If she was still a healthy person, she might not be able to wait to find out what was going on. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation. However, 70% of her skin was now unrecognizable. Her face in the mirror was covered with burn scars. She could not even lift her arms. Even lifting them slightly would cause her severe pain. At this moment, she was sitting on the chair in front of the dressing table. She leaned against the back of the chair weakly and looked at the reflection in the mirror tiredly. She did not dare to take a closer look. Even she felt scared looking at her own face. The assets under her name had been distributed. After her death, her lawyer would donate them for her. Although she had paid a lot of liquidated damages, it seemed like she had no money. However, she had been in the entertainment industry for so many years. She had to leave herself a way out. After the accident, she became an abandoned person. She no longer had a place in the entertainment industry. Because she was too popular, she had no friends among the female celebrities. No, she used to have friends. However, they were no longer her friends now. As for what exactly happened to that accident, she didn't want to look into it. Even if she used up all her assets, she would not be able to find out anything. Because she was an abandoned person, no one would help her. As for her family, they had come to visit her after the accident. Later, they found out that she had paid a lot of compensation and sold the villa. They also heard that she needed a lot of money for her follow-up treatment. Therefore, those people left on the same day. After that, they did not call her. If it weren't for the fact that she had left a way out for herself and had some jewels and assets in other places, not only would she have been disfigured, but she would also have ended up on the streets. Since no one cared about her, she would donate the rest of her money. Half an hour later, when Yue looked at the plate of roast chicken and could not help it. I'm going to die anyway. It's so delicious. Even if it's poisonous, it's a pity if I don't try it. When Yue thought that she would starve for a few more days after she ate the roast chicken. If she didn't eat it, she wouldn't be able to rest in peace. Therefore, she quickly ate the roast chicken. It was really fast. She hadn't eaten for 2 days. She was really starving. It was even more painful than dieting in order to look good on camera. As he swallowed mouthful after mouthful of roast chicken, the feeling of fullness slowly increased. She originally thought that after not eating for 2 days and eating such greasy food, her stomach would definitely feel uncomfortable, but she didn't. She didn't know who the chef who made the roast chicken was, but she wanted to invite him over to make her last dinner. After eating a roast chicken, when Yue felt full of energy and drank a bottle of mineral water. Finally, she pinched the white pill in her hand. I've already eaten the roasted chicken. What's one more strange pill? With that, she swallowed it. New by Chinese Network. Nepsp, Nepsp, Tanghua and the people in the group waited for about half an hour before there was finally some movement in the group. Wen Yue, excuse me, what group is this? I just grabbed 2 red envelopes, a plate of roast chicken, and a strange pill. I ate them all. Seeing Wen Yue appear, everyone in the group, including Tanghua, was very happy. Campus Belle, this is a social group. I'm the leader of this group. I want to chat with more like-minded people about transmigration, female supporting role, calm down. Talking about life, looking for confidence peak. Chapter 2062. Wen Yue, hello, group leader. Isn't this a chat group? What kind of group is this? To be honest, the roast chicken you sent me was so delicious that I couldn't help myself. Wen Yue's words made everyone in the group burst into laughter. This newcomer seemed to be very interesting. The others didn't interrupt and let Tanghua, the group leader, explain for Wen Yue. Wen Yue was shocked when Tanghua said that the members of this group came from different realms. She was very excited when she asked if the realms of cultivation, magic, and interstellar were what she imagined. Wen Yue, I see. I didn't expect such a miracle to happen before I die. Group leader, the roast chicken was so delicious. Do you have any more? What do you need? I can exchange jewelry and gold bars with you. Wen Yue had already opened the safe. Seeing that Tanghua's name was Campus Belle, she thought it would be better to send some jewelry. She looked at the items in the safe and found some beautiful jewelry and diamonds. Finally, she chose the most beautiful ones and sent them to Tanghua. Wen Yue, can you give me another plate of roast chicken? She was going to satisfy her appetite and go on her way. Suddenly, she remembered the delicious pill. She quickly searched the records and found that the name of the pill was Beauty Pill. She didn't care too much and found the person who sent the red packet. Wen Yue, that pill was also delicious. Ziyun, do you need anything? Although it's not convenient for me to go out, I can order takeout. I'm in the mortal world. I don't know if you've heard of it. Group leader, if the name is what I think it is, then you should have heard of it. If possible, I would like to exchange for 2 more of those fragrant, sweet, and pain-relieving pills. Yes, after taking the pills, she felt that the pain in her body was reduced a lot. She didn't know if the other party was willing to accept such a good thing, so she could only offer her own conditions. In any case, even if he were to die, he wanted to die a comfortable death. She had made so much money, but she didn't really enjoy it. Ziyun, I have a lot of pills. Ziyun didn't know whether to laugh or cry after being praised for how tasty the pill was. However, the other party seemed to want to exchange something with him instead of trying to take advantage of him. Ziyun was in a better mood. Ever since his experience with Ji Xiaoxi, he especially hated people who liked to take advantage of others. Margaret, did you just say you were going to die after eating it? Can you tell me what happened? Qi Xiao, yes, you're living well. Why do you want to die? Now that you've met us, don't you feel regretful that you haven't met us yet? Mo Yuntian, the little girl should still be very young. If you have any difficulties, tell us and see if we can help. The people in the group expressed their opinions one after another. They were really excited to have a newcomer with a good personality. Previously, they had asked Tanghua and found out that even though she was the group leader, she had no way of pulling people in. It was really a pity. School Belle, why don't you share your story? Since you're able to join the group, it means that this is an opportunity. Wen Yue thought about it and agreed. She had never heard of anyone who could snatch a plate of roasted chicken from a red packet. Now that she was full, she didn't feel like dying anymore. Since that was the case, she might as well find out more about this group so that she wouldn't have any regrets. Chapter 2063. Wenyoe, my name is Wenyoe. I live on an ordinary planet. I used to be a famous actress. Wenyoe told them about her story. Perhaps it was because she had no one to accompany her. He carefully shared his experience in front of this group of strangers whom he had never met before. The despair in her words made the people in the group silent. Such an experience was too tragic for an ordinary person. When they heard that she planned to starve to death and even hired a lawyer to donate her remaining assets after her death, they understood that she was a very kind girl. If other people heard this, they would at most say some comforting words and sympathize with her. However, the people in this group were all capable people. Her skin was burned, and it was just a matter of a few pills. After hearing this, Tangwa said, Wenyoe, you don't have to die. Wenyoe was confused. I don't have to die. It's painful for me to live. I was discharged from the hospital after only 1 month because I didn't want to be tortured by treatment. My face was burned, and there are not many intact parts of my body. I can't go on. Ziyun, didn't you take a beauty pill before? It should be working now. Look in the mirror and see if there are any changes. Qi Xiao, yes, look in the mirror and see if there are any changes. Even if Ziyun's pills were for ordinary people, they would still have some effect. Wenyoe didn't understand, but she also looked in the mirror. She was stunned for a moment. She didn't know if it was her illusion, but she felt that the terrible scars on her face had healed a little. Although it still looked hideous, it was her own face, and she could see any changes clearly. It was indeed better. She was a little excited. When she looked in the group again, she saw the red packet again. She poked it and a bottle of pills appeared in her hand. She didn't open it immediately, but instead, she told them about her situation. Ziyun told her that it was the effect of the pills. He had just sent her another bottle containing dozens of pills. She could take one a day to slowly recover. She was just an ordinary person, so she couldn't take pills that were too strong. Too strong would cause her body to explode, and it would also expose her abnormality. Wenyoe burst into tears. She didn't know what else to say except to thank him. Hearing these comforting words in the group, her hope for life rekindled. Ziyun, it's been a long time since a new member joined the group. We all like new members, so don't think about dying. Piao Fairy, yeah, the school bell is quite nice. She would give us delicacies from various planes from time to time. That plate of roast chicken was delicious, right? He wouldn't be able to eat it after he died. Tangwa added, heal your injuries first. Don't you want to find out who did this to you? After Tangwa finished speaking, she ignored the situation in the group and exited. She quickly took out her phone and searched for Wenyoe's name. Sure enough, the next message that popped up was that the former superstar Wenyoe's face was burned and disfigured. She scrolled down and saw that it was all about Wenyoe's disfigurement. She clicked on Wenyoe's homepage and saw a very beautiful and fashionable woman. When Wenyoe was talking about her experience, she remembered something that was briefly mentioned in the plot. The reason why it could be brushed aside was because Wenyoe had a little relationship with one of the women of the male lead, Li Fan. Chapter 2064. This woman was called Gan Yingying, and she was also a female celebrity. It was said that before Wenyoe's accident, the two of them had always been compared. Wenyoe was gentle and beautiful, while Gan Yingying was delicate and gorgeous. However, in terms of resources and strength, Wenyoe had always been better. However, the two of them had never been angry because of this. It was said that the two of them were very close friends. Every time Gan Yingying appeared, there would be regrets. If Wenyoe didn't die, her achievements would definitely not be lower than Gan Yingying's. Gan Yingying would often mention Wen Yue and shed tears for her good friend many times. In the plot, Wen Yue starved to death. As she said, after starving to death, she asked a lawyer to donate all her remaining assets. At that time, her family even came to make trouble. However, in the end, they were scolded back by Wen Yue's fans. Tang Guo searched for Wen Yue's information and couldn't help but laugh. She didn't expect that this new friend of hers would be in her world. After looking at Wen Yue's information, Tang Guo searched for Gan Yingying. At present, she was still a big star, but Li Fan didn't have anything to do with her. However, after a while, that might not be the case. After reading it, there wasn't much noise. Gan Yingying's character was not a pure and innocent girl, but a sexy and seductive one. Then, she found a lot of news in the forum. It seemed that all the resources that belonged to Wen Yue had fallen on Gan Yingying's head. Gan Yingying seemed to be taking into account their past relationship. She didn't accept it completely and evaded it quite a bit. When she heard Wen Yue's statement, she seemed to be very lonely and didn't have many friends. If Gan Yingying really had a good relationship with her, how could she let her starve to death? If a good friend had such a big accident, she wouldn't come to see her every day. She would just call her to comfort her and visit her once a week. It seemed that the relationship between the two of them was not as good as imagined. When she looked at the group again, Wen Yue was already chatting with everyone and was very grateful to them. The people in the group gave her a lot of things, all kinds of strange things. Wen Yue was a little embarrassed, so she asked everyone what they liked. For women like Pamya Fairy and Margaret, it was definitely a good idea to give them dresses and jewelry. But for the others, she was in a dilemma. Tang Guo interjected, "Just send some food over. They just like that. Just give them more food and they'll be very happy." "Okay, I'll call the restaurant right away and ask them to send some food over." Now, he didn't want to die. He had a chance to be reborn. Wen Yue did not want to give up either. Tang Guo was right. She also wanted to find out who had harmed her. She was unwilling to die like this. Previously, there was no hope. Now that her face could recover, she could still mingle in the entertainment industry, earn money, and establish all kinds of connections. She was not afraid that she would not be able to find out. She prepared all kinds of delicious food for everyone. She also gave Margaret, Piaomia Fairy, and Tang Guo beautiful jewelry, all of which were precious. In this world, each item was worth at least 1 million. Not only that, she also ordered expensive watches and some things that men in this world liked. Without asking, she sent them to Ziyun and the others in the group. It was just a little bit of food. She felt really bad about it. After spending the money, she could still earn it. It was not a big deal. When Tang Guo saw Ziyun say that he liked watches, she thought for a moment. Ziyun was holding a sword and wearing a long robe. He looked at his watch and said to his opponent, "It's time. Let's eat before we fight." Peak. Chapter 2065. Tang Guo didn't look at the messages in the group anymore. She told the system to keep an eye on it and left the dormitory. Because a few of her roommates had called her and said that today's new students were almost all received and asked her to go out for a meal. The reason why she didn't refuse was because she would meet Li Fan later. At that time, Li Fan would go out for a meal with his roommates. In the plot, they sat very far away and there was a wall between them. Li Fan was busy making new friends and didn't notice them. The reason why she wanted to go was because something would happen at that restaurant. Li Fan would come here by chance. The second woman he liked, of course, would become his woman later on. She just wanted to confirm if these women liked Li Fan willingly or if he used some other method to confuse them. If he used some method to confuse them, she wouldn't let Li Fan succeed. I'm bored to death during the holidays. At home, my mother is controlling everything. She doesn't allow me to eat these snacks at all. Her roommate Ran Jingdan said. Ran Jingdan was a long-legged, rich and beautiful woman. She was actually quite arrogant. At first, the original owner didn't think that such an arrogant girl like Ran Jingdan would be willing to share Li Fan with dozens of women. Another beautiful roommate was called Miao Han. She had a gentle personality and looked very elegant. As for the remaining one called Li Xiaoli, her appearance was slightly more ordinary. She also had a poor family background among them. Everyone still took care of her, so there were no conflicts. Tang Guo silently ate with them. She deliberately chose a position where she could see the situation outside. Sure enough, after a while, she heard the sound of a beer bottle breaking on the ground, accompanied by a girl's scream. She glanced at the beautiful girl wearing an apron outside. This was the girl that Li Fan met by chance. She wasn't a student of the university, but an employee of this skewer shop. Outside the school, other than students, there were also some indecent people. Looking at Du Yumei, who had fair skin and a beautiful appearance, it was inevitable that he would be unruly after drinking 2 more mouthfuls. Du Yumei was helping to open the beer bottle when the big man grabbed her hand. She was so scared that she screamed. Tang Guo glanced at Li Fan's position. Sure enough, she saw him walking over and pulling Du Yumei behind him. Without saying a word, he grabbed the collar of the burly man and turned him into a pig's head. In the end, the burly man and his men left behind some ruthless words, "Brat, you just wait and see." Then, they hurriedly left. Naturally, Du Yumei was grateful and worshipful of Li Fan for escaping the calamity. Tang Guo saw that Li Fan even called Du Yumei and said, "If you have any problems in the future, you can call me." Then, she saw Du Yumei blushing and nodding. She came back with the tray and carefully hid the phone number in her pocket. Heroes saving the damsel in distress would never go out of style. Tang Guo, what are you looking at? Ran Jingdan also looked outside. Someone was causing trouble. It seems that the person sitting next to us chased them away, Tang Guo replied. When Miao Han heard this, she frowned. She obviously did not like this kind of violence. Tang Guo was amused when she saw this. At first, the two of them really looked down on Li Fan, thinking that he had no taste, was not handsome, and had a bunch of women. In the end, he was really fragrant. They didn't know what the reason was. Tang Guo was no longer interested in Du Yumei. The easiest way for a woman to be infatuated with a man was to be a hero saving the damsel in distress. Peak. Chapter 2066. With Du Yumei's miserable background, relying on Li Fan was not strange at all. After eating, she planned to go back. Unexpectedly, she met Li Fan halfway and even came over to greet her. Of course, she continued to maintain a cold expression. When Li Fan asked her for her contact information, she still had no intention of giving it to him. Li Fan's expression changed slightly for a moment, but he quickly maintained his smile, as if he had no intention of pestering her. He turned around and went back with his roommates. Tang Guo did not say anything, but Ran Jingdan opened her mouth. Really, anyone dares to pursue our family's Tang Guo. Why don't you take a look at yourself in the mirror? That person is indeed not worthy of Tang Guo. Miao Han said lightly, just ignore this kind of person. He won't leave in 2 days. Yes, Tang Guo is the daughter of the family Tang. The people chasing her are lining up to the opposite school. Li Xiaoli said, but her words sounded a little sour. Tang Guo smiled faintly. For someone who is unmarried, they must keep a distance from the opposite sex. If I really gave him my contact information, how would I explain it to my fiancé? She knew that with Li Fan's hearing, he would definitely be able to hear the situation here. Sure enough, the system told her that Li Fan's expression was startled, the anger in his eyes had not completely faded. In the following time, Li Fan did not come over to create any coincidental encounters like in the original work. Tang Guo finally calmed down a lot, but she knew that Li Fan was definitely not a well-behaved person. When she was shopping, she found Li Fan and Du Yumei, who was wearing a beautiful dress, walking together. Du Yumei even had a very beautiful rose in her hand. Seeing that the two of them were interested, she knew that the two of them were almost done. Seeing that Tang Guo was not doing anything, the system could not hold it in anymore. Tang Guo raised her eyebrows. What am I in a hurry for? Let him dance for a while. Don't tell me you want me to stop him from picking up girls. Du Yumei is willing, I don't want to go. Of course, the system did not mean that. It just wanted to know how its host was going to deal with Li Fan. At present, Li Fan's performance was just a little unfaithful and greasy, but it seemed that there was nothing wrong with it. That's because he hasn't reached the peak yet. Just watch, it won't be long before he makes a name for himself. Let's wait until he's arrogant. Right now, he hasn't done anything. Let's see what he'll do next. If he didn't do anything bad, he wouldn't be able to find a reason. Moreover, she also wanted to see if those women could withstand Li Fan's sweet words. Forget about Du Yumei, with her miserable family situation, Li Fan was her savior. For example, the woman behind her was of high status. She really couldn't understand. Tang Guo had been spending most of her time in the dormitory when she was not attending classes. Occasionally, she would receive calls from her fiancé, Zhang Xing. On weekends, she would ask him out for a meal. Once, she even met Li Fan. Li Fan was either with Du Yumei or Wu Shui. It seemed that he had no intention of harassing her. In less than 2 days, Tang Guo saw Li Fan holding a book and acting cool at the entrance of the library. Then, a good-looking girl stood beside him and said in surprise, Li Fan, you can actually memorize A Dream of the Red Chamber. Tang Guo, Li Fan's golden finger was a system store. He could buy all kinds of mystical items from it. Right now, he was able to memorize A Dream of the Red Chamber with his eyes closed because his consciousness was immersed in the system space and he was reading according to the book. To be able to enter this key university from an ordinary grade in a year, he didn't seem to study much. That was because he bought a college entrance exam paper from the system store and memorized the answers directly. He was also afraid of being suspected, so he didn't dare to go against all of them. In the beginning, Li Fan wasn't that high profile. Then Li Fan, can you memorize A Journey to the West? The girl's eyes lit up. If you can memorize A Journey to the West, I'll let you off today. Tang Guo stood silently in the corner, watching Li Fan close his eyes and continue to recite A Journey to the West. Peak. Chapter 2067. Tang Guo watched as Li Fan started to recite Journey to the West from the beginning. That girl stood at the side, holding the book and staring at it without blinking. Her eyes were shining. Looking at Li Fan, it was as if she had seen a peerless treasure. All right, I believe you. You really have a photographic memory. The girl excitedly closed the book and grabbed Li Fan's arm. Li Fan, since you have a photographic memory, then come with me to participate in the poetry conference. With your situation, as long as you can recite all the poems from ancient times to modern times, you will definitely be able to win the championship. Tang Guo was enlightened. She was wondering why this girl would pull Li Fan to recite Dream of the Red Chamber and Journey to the West. So it was like this. In the plot, there was indeed a plot where Li Fan participated in the poetry conference. Otherwise, with Li Fan's current status, how could he come into contact with the superstar Gan Yingying? The special guest of the poetry conference was Gan Yingying. At that time, Li Fan had displayed his extraordinary ability and defeated all the scholars and professors from various big schools to win the championship. His extraordinary memory was worshipped by countless people. Other than participating in the poetry conference, he also participated in the idiom competition and history competition. In short, these kinds of competitions that relied on memory had Li Fan's figure. Wherever Li Fan appeared, he was invincible and no one could stop him. No matter how powerful you were, you could only be his stepping stone, a small cannon fodder to polish his rising life. The girl who pulled Li Fan was a sophomore from the Chinese department. She was in the same batch as her and was very beautiful. She was also one of the campus beauties. Her name was Su Shirling. She also had an identity that no one else knew. She was the daughter of the principal of this university. When Tang Guo came back to her senses, how could Li Fan resist the pleading of such a beautiful girl? He agreed to participate in the poetry conference. Tang Guo wasn't interested in seeing Li Fan flirt with girls. As long as the other party didn't force girls to follow him, it had nothing to do with her. How many women did he have? If he didn't capsize, that would be his ability. In less than 2 days, Tang Guo heard her roommates discussing that this season's poetry conference would be held in their school. Tang Guo was not interested in competing with Li Fan. Ran Jingdan and Li Xiaoli were both science students and were not interested in poetry. However, Miao Han, who looked quiet and had a gentle personality, was interested. She expressed that she wanted to give it a try. Miao Han would also write some poems. She was a standard artistic young woman. Since she was going to participate, as her roommate, Tang Guo would definitely go and support her. After all, the original owner had a good relationship with her at this time. The registration time for the audition was set for Saturday. The four of them woke up early in the morning. Miao Han looked a little nervous. She only calmed down after a few words of encouragement. When they arrived at the scene, there were indeed many people present. Some of the families who lived nearby didn't go back either. It seemed like they wanted to watch the show or participate in the audition. If they were lucky, they might even be able to go on TV and meet the big stars in the finals. They didn't want to go on TV and gain some glory for themselves. Miao Han came early. With her cultural background and the deliberate preparation she had done yesterday, she passed the audition test and successfully registered. Li Fan and his group arrived late, and the judges had almost packed up their stalls. Originally, she wasn't very satisfied with Li Fan. Later, Su Shirling quickly said that Li Fan had a photographic memory. If she didn't believe it, she could test him. Vertex. Chapter 2068. Under Li Fan's outstanding performance, Tang Guo realized that the judges were so excited that they almost caught Li Fan and sent him to the finals. Retentive memory, just this ability alone was a gimmick. Li Fan also noticed Tang Guo. With a smile on his lips, he walked in front of Tang Guo. "Senior Tang, are you also going to participate in the poetry competition?" "I'm not participating, my roommate is participating." Tang Guo replied coldly, making Li Fan a little disappointed. Especially Tang Guo's attitude towards him, it was really too cold. Ever since he came here, who didn't flatter him? As long as a woman knew of his ability, they would look at him with eyes full of worship. Li Fan thought that Tang Guo looked down on him because she hadn't seen his ability. As for Tang Guo's fiancée, he didn't care at all. He had seen the other party before and had inadvertently seen the way the two of them interacted. The two of them weren't close, and that person's appearance was indeed not bad, but he reeked of money. His engagement with Tang Guo was most likely a family marriage. During this period of time, he had already investigated Tang Guo and Zhang Xing's background. That's really a pity. If Senior Tang were to participate, we could still form a team. Li Fan was a little unwilling to accept Tang Guo's attitude. They had known each other for so long, but he didn't even get a phone number. Li Fan, let's go eat. I'll treat you. This time, you have to do well for our team. Su Shiling didn't know if she felt it, but Li Fan was very special to Tang Guo. In addition, there were two very beautiful girls beside Tang Guo. She planned to pull Li Fan away. Li Fan's talent was discovered by her. She didn't allow others to see it. However, Ran Jingdan looked at the two of them being intimate and couldn't help but say, "Did you change girlfriends again?" At this time, Ran Jingdan still didn't seem to like Li Fan, which was why she said such poisonous words. She just couldn't get used to Li Fan acting like he was the most handsome man in the world and all the beautiful women would bow down to him. Seeing Su Shiling's appearance, how could she not understand that this was another little girl who was captivated by Li Fan? She couldn't help but expose her. Sure enough, Li Fan and Su Shiling's expressions changed. Su Shiling also immediately let go of Li Fan's arm. Her face was a little red, and she looked at Ran Jingdan angrily. As such, both sides had nothing more to say and left in different directions. From afar, Tang Guo heard Su Shiling asking Li Fan in a low voice if he had a girlfriend. According to Ran Jingdan and Miao Han's thoughts, Li Fan should have thought of a way to cover it up. However, Li Fan actually said very frankly, "It's mine, I have a girlfriend." Tang Guo couldn't help but turn around and look at Su Shiling's disappointed face. In the end, she didn't say anything. Li Fan changed the topic and soon made her happy again. Although that Li Fan is a bit of a playboy, he still has some ability. After returning to the dormitory, Miao Han couldn't help but say, "I underestimated him before. He actually has the ability to remember everything." When speaking of this, Miao Han didn't seem to hate Li Fan as much as before. Tang Guo also finally understood how Miao Han became Li Fan's woman in the end. For a literary young girl, a man who could shine in the poetry competition was undoubtedly very attractive. So what? Isn't he still a playboy? I think Su Shiling has taken a fancy to him. Ran Jingdan said disdainfully. Peak. Chapter 2069. The dormitory discussed Su Shiling for a long time, but Tang Guo did not participate in it. She felt that Miao Han did not hate Li Fan as much as before. She even said that she wanted to compete with him to see if his photographic memory was real or fake. What if the judges drew a page of poetry that Li Fan knew was just a coincidence? Tang Guo rubbed her chin. After Li Fan became the champion of the poetry competition, he would start to meet all kinds of big shots and reveal all kinds of outstanding women. Then, his true legendary life would begin. He would also become more and more arrogant, thinking that there was no woman that he could not get. Even if he would not do anything to that woman directly, he would still attack her from the side, making that woman have no choice but to submit. Alright, then let him be at the poetry competition and let the other party become famous first. Only after experiencing the peak would one know how painful it would be to fall to the bottom. And those women who were willing to follow him, when he was down and out, how many of them would continue to follow him wholeheartedly? She would not do anything. She would just wait for Li Fan to provoke her and snatch away his cheat. At that time, Li Fan would already have some achievements. If he was smart, even if he did not have a cheat, it should not be a problem for him to gain a foothold in this world. After the system heard this, it clicked its tongue. Tang Guo thought for a moment. It was like this. That system store had everything. Its advantages were similar to Taobao's, but the items inside were more abundant than Taobao's. There were all kinds of strange things. In the plot, the reason why he and his women were able to maintain their youthful looks was because they had taken the eternal youth pills that were bought inside. Then let's wait for him to become famous and see what he will do. When the system heard this, it was happy. The host clearly knew that for an ordinary person like this who had received a treasure from the sky, without hard work, everything was just bubbles. At the beginning, they might be able to keep their mind clear. Later on, most of them would slowly lose themselves in wealth and women, losing themselves. Li Fan thought that he had the system store and could buy anything. He thought that he was invincible. Of course, he would get whatever he wanted. He would not walk on the right path and would only go astray. Moreover, this was a stallion novel. It was written by a crooked person, and the direction was all arranged by the author behind the scenes. It was all about stallion invincible, refreshing, and accepting female types. It was definitely impossible to let Li Fan be a serious, civilized, and devoted protagonist. Tang Guo was not in a hurry at all. Generally speaking, there was no danger in this world, and there was nothing worth doing in a hurry. However, in order to prevent Tang Guo from running out of funds like in the script, she had already invested all of her pocket money into the stock market. By the time they needed it, it should have multiplied by many times. As for whether or not they would help Tang Guo overcome this crisis, that would depend on their attitude. Everyone had their own choice, didn't they? At this moment, a message popped up in the group. Tang Guo saw that it was a message from Wen Yue. Vertex. Chapter 2070. Wen Yue, thank you for your help. I've completely recovered. I really didn't expect that in just 2 months I would be able to recover to a better state than before. Everyone could see that Wen Yue was very emotional. If anyone could see her, they would see that she was about to cry. The past few months had been like going from heaven to hell and back again. It was amazing. Tang Guo, what are you going to do next? Recovering from his injuries in just 2 months would easily arouse suspicion. Wen Yue, I'm now in a private dermatology hospital abroad. After receiving the beauty pill from Ziyun, I asked about the treatment. If the news of me returning to the entertainment industry after recovering in 2 months is spread, it will definitely cause a huge uproar. It will also remind the mastermind that they can harm me again. At that time, we were filming in the forest. It was summer, and the mastermind was too clean. The police haven't found anything yet. They don't even have a suspect. The forest is not like the city. There are no surveillance cameras at all. Tang Guo, you're right. If you go out like this, your abnormality will not only arouse suspicion, but you will also be targeted by the mastermind. If such a magical secret is discovered, you will definitely be caught and dissected by the unscrupulous laboratory. Wen Yue, so, after receiving the beauty pill from Ziyun and your gift, I booked a plane ticket to go abroad on the same day. I've contacted a private dermatology hospital and paid them a lot of money to treat me. I'm secretly taking the beauty pill. Even if I recover now, the outside world won't suspect anything. I thought about it and decided to stay here for half a year. I haven't had a rest in a long time. I can rest for a while and recharge my energy before going back. After this incident, Wen Yue was not afraid that the entertainment industry would abandon her. As long as her face recovered, it would cause a sensation. She didn't have any scandals. Because if she recovered, she would definitely be offered a lot of endorsements. Tang Guo was relieved to hear Wen Yue's plan. She didn't reveal that she and Wen Yue were in the same world. When she exited the group and checked Weibo, she found that Wen Yue was on the hot search list. Wen Yue secretly went abroad for treatment. After Wen Yue's fans found out about it, they all left messages on her Weibo page, wishing her a speedy return. Tang Guo then realized that Wen Yue had posted on Weibo, telling everyone that she was receiving treatment abroad and asking her fans to wait for her return. That Weibo post sent her fans into a frenzy that very day and sent her to the top of the search rankings. Then, she saw another trending topic, which was currently ranked second. Hashtag Gan Ying joins the poetry contest. Hashtag Tangguo rested her chin on her hand and smiled. She didn't think much about it. However, she was looking forward to the meeting between Gan Ying and Li Fan. Miao Han, you must work hard to enter the finals. Miao Han was flattered by Tangguo's sudden encouragement. She quickly replied that she would do her best. Every division would compete for 3 spots to participate in the finals. With so many people signing up today, Miao Han would have to put in a lot of effort if she wanted to enter the top 3. This was also what piqued Miao Han's interest. From that day onwards, she had been battling with CIC every day. How would she know that the reason why Tangguo encouraged her was because she wanted to be part of her family and friends and go to the finals to watch Li Fan and Gan Ying? System, very bad. Chapter 2071. The system suddenly remembered, where's this world's host's big cutie? He shouldn't be absent, right? When Tangguo heard the system's words, her tone was very calm, otherwise, his previous life's wish would have been in vain. System, I feel a little sad for that guy, what's going on? In the following period of time, many things happened. Under the witness of the system and Tangguo, Du Yume willingly became his woman. After Li Fan opened his company, he let Du Yume quit her job at the skewer shop and let her be his company's secretary. During this period of time, Li Fan relied on the system store to pick up a few down-and-out talents. Not only did he provide funds, but he also offered generous conditions and successfully opened his company, becoming a big boss. He bought a business plan from the system store and threw it to these people. He was just a shopkeeper who didn't do anything. In any case, he wasn't lacking in money. What he lacked was social status. For the time being, he couldn't enter the upper circle. Du Yume became Li Fan's woman. This matter definitely couldn't be hidden from his first love, Wu Shui. After all, Wu Shui was a student from the music academy next door. After Wu Shui found out, she was angry for a few days. Du Yume also went to apologize to her and Li Fan went to coax her every day. In any case, after all kinds of entanglement, the two of them also found that Li Fan was surrounded by many women. They immediately understood that such an outstanding man like Li Fan couldn't be owned by only one of them. Wu Shui accepted Du Yume and the two of them called each other sisters. Li Fan even said sweet nothings to Wu Shui, saying that she would always be his first wife and that he would marry her in the future. Wu Shui was actually very happy. Sometimes, she and Du Yume would even live in the same room as Li Fan. According to what Tangguo knew, the women who had an ambiguous relationship with Li Fan, other than the two that he had already taken in, were the principal's daughter, Su Shiling, and his tutor, Shi Yunnuo. Although Shi Yunnuo was very angry with Li Fan every time, she didn't reject Li Fan's approach. What made Tangguo the most inconceivable was that Shi Yunnuo had a boyfriend. Then, because of a student's teasing, she didn't report him for harassment. Instead, she blushed and felt ashamed. She didn't understand. The system also didn't understand. It was too greasy. While Li Fan was flirting with girls, the poetry competition at the division had also begun. As Miao Han's roommate, Tangguo would definitely be there to support her. Miao Han had always been interested in these things. Coupled with her cramming, she performed very well in the division competition and finally got 3rd place. The 2nd place was from the school next door, Su Shiling was 4th, and Li Fan was 1st. After the competition ended, Tangguo realized that something was wrong with Miao Han. He would often mention Li Fan, saying how powerful he was. Ran Jingdan even vomited at Tangguo and belittled Li Fan a few times. In the end, she quarreled with Miao Han. What's so good about that lecherous guy? Didn't you see two women holding his arm while he was shopping? Who doesn't know that they're in that kind of relationship? Miao Han, no matter what, Li Fan is indeed a very talented person. I can tell that he didn't memorize it by rote. He analyzed every single poem thoroughly. This time in the division competition, it was expected that he would be able to become the champion. Moreover, I have a premonition that he will be able to become the overall champion. I also heard that he wasn't just having an ambiguous relationship with two girls. Tangua interrupted, you wouldn't have taken a fancy to him, right? Peak. Chapter 2072. How is that possible? Miao Han's voice became softer. All right, I'm going to continue reading. Let's not talk about this. System, Tangua replied plainly, yeah. Ran Jingdan was still angry with Miao Han and felt extremely uncomfortable. She pulled Tangua to the library. Because of the craze of the poetry competition, there were more people reading. When they arrived, there was only one table left, but there was already someone sitting there. The other seats were not occupied, so Ran Jingdan chose a book and sat in front of him. The moment she sat down, Ran Jingdan felt that something was wrong. The male classmate who was sitting opposite her subconsciously moved the book in front of him, and he also moved towards the window without a trace. When Tangua walked over, she saw that there were a few books beside Ran Jingdan. She had no choice but to sit beside the male classmate. Once she sat down, it was serious. She felt that the male classmate beside her coughed softly. She subconsciously looked over and saw that there was a red rash on his face. Was he sick? She tried asking, classmate, are you feeling unwell? Do you want to go to the infirmary? Taking a closer look, this male classmate was quite good-looking. It was just that his skin was unhealthily fair, and there were more and more red rashes on his neck and cheeks. In such a situation, Tangua couldn't ignore it. I'll send you to the infirmary. The male classmate's cold gaze landed on Tangua. His voice was a little cold, no need, just stay away from me. Stay away from him. If not for the fact that he did not look well, Ran Jingdan would have jumped up. Stay away from him. These words of obvious disdain were really infuriating. When Tangua heard this, she retracted her hand that was about to touch him and moved a little further away. Is this okay? A little further, the male classmate said coldly. Tangua moved a little further away. How about this? Not enough. Tangua realized that she had moved a little and saw that Ran Jingdan was sitting opposite him. She said softly, Ran Jingdan, sit opposite me. Although Ran Jingdan was unhappy, she seemed to have understood something. She hugged her book and sat opposite Tangua. Then, Tangua realized that the rashes on the male classmate's face had disappeared. His pale face also gradually regained its redness. She and Ran Jingdan looked at each other, fully feeling the unfriendliness of this world. System, maybe it's a kind of illness, phobia. Tangua guessed because she had encountered this illness in the world she had traveled to. Usually, this kind of illness was rooted in the heart. The system's considerate reminder. It was not easy to cure for this kind of mental illness. Seeing the host and her roommate move to the edge reading the book. There are no other seats in the library, so let's just sit here. It's so far away, so it shouldn't affect him. The system was this not right? He carefully observed the male classmate who was wearing a shirt and had his head buried in his book with a cold expression. No, he just told me to stay away. Tangua suspected that her Tongzi had received benefits from the guy opposite her. However, in this kind of situation, she really would not leave. Fine, if there was no mistake in principle, she would be the one to send some warmth to that guy in this world. Chapter 2073. Tanggua observed the guy for a while. When she saw that the rash on his face and neck had subsided, she then focused on reading. Fu Yanji saw the way she was sizing him up, and his lips pursed into a straight line. His expression was very cold, or rather, his entire being was very cold. When he saw that Tanggua was no longer sizing him up and had no intention of getting close to him, he also looked at the book. Ran Jingdan did not pay much attention to this. She had quarreled with Miao Han earlier and was unhappy. She wanted to read some books to distract herself. As for that sick guy, she did not want to know what he was doing at all when she thought of his disdainful gaze. Tanggua did not pay attention to what Fu Yanji was doing. However, when Fu Yanji was in the middle, he could not help but look at the girl sitting far away from him. Fu Yanji lowered his head, feeling very puzzled. If he could, he did not want to treat his mental illness. He had tried all kinds of methods over the years, but there was no cure. Whenever the opposite sex got too close to him, his face would turn pale and a scary rash would appear on his neck and face. This was something he could not control. These special reactions seemed to be warning others that he was a person who did not want strangers to get close to him. Of course, he did not think that there was anything wrong with this. At least it could prevent the opposite sex from getting close to him. The bad thing was that once the opposite sex deliberately got close to him, it would cause his body pain. Today, he came to the library because he wanted some peace and quiet. He did not ask anyone to follow him. The people who came to the library often knew him and his situation. Basically, they would not choose to sit beside him. These two girls did not come to the library often, so it was not strange that they sat directly on the seats. However, his attention was attracted by a girl. It was a little unbelievable. It's no use sneaking glances. He can't get close to me. Tanggua's voice was a little gloating. The system was speechless. There is still a way. As long as we find the cause and overcome the psychological fear, it will be fine. However, I am not familiar with him. I can't just rush over and say, "Hey, you are sick. I can treat you. Will you listen to me now?" The system thought about it and agreed. This young man was not simple at all. He exuded the aura of a rich young master. It was clear that the other party's identity was extraordinary. It was impossible for him to do anything rashly. Take it slow. There will always be a chance. Moreover, I think he is a very restrained person. Just now, when Ran Jingdan and I were so close, he didn't directly scold or get angry. It can be seen that his temper is not bad. Logically speaking, such a person shouldn't have such a strange mental illness. Tanggua didn't know the truth, and she didn't intend to get close to him. The fact that they were able to meet each other meant that there was some fate between them. In that case, it would only be natural for them to meet a few more times. There was bound to be a chance for their relationship to progress further. Moreover, she had a fiancé now. For the sake of the reputation of both families, she couldn't do something that would embarrass them. Therefore, it was better to settle the matter between the families. When she was free, it would be easy for her to do whatever she wanted. As for this guy, he shouldn't be in any danger. X767E, and X9540, and X4E00, and X4E0B, and X201C, quick crossover. Female supporting character, calm down, and X722A, and X4E66, and X5C4B, and X201D, and X6700, and X65B0, and X7AE0, and X8282, and X7B2C, and X4E00, and X65F6, and X95F4, and X514D, and X8D39, and X9605, and X8BFB, and X3002, and X3002, Vertex. Chapter 2074. For a few days, Tang Guo went to the library, but she was always late. As expected, she met Fu Yanji, who was occupying the table. She didn't greet him and just chose a seat at the side. Fu Yanji only raised his head to look at her and didn't have any strange reaction. Then, he lowered his head and continued. Tang Guo didn't plan to get close to Fu Yanji. She mainly came to get familiar with him. System, actually, he didn't believe it. But he couldn't guess what the host was thinking. After about 2 weeks, the finals of the poetry competition started. Tang Guo naturally couldn't go to the library. Everyone in the dormitory went to the finals as Miao Han's relatives and friends. This time, it was broadcasted on TV. Tang Guo and the other two were fine, but Miao Han, who was going to stand on the stage to compete, was extremely nervous. During her trip to the finals, Tang Guo discovered something very interesting. It was Li Fan's group of relatives and friends. Other than his roommates and some friends of the same sex, there were also very beautiful girls. 2 of them were his women, Wu Shui and Du Yumei. There was also the counselor, Shi Yunhuo, and the principal's daughter, Su Shiling. The remaining few beautiful girls were unfamiliar faces. Tang Guo didn't recognize them. But looking at them working hard to cheer for Li Fan and looking at the scene of Li Fan and his 2 girlfriends showing off their love with envy, she understood. Li Fan's charm was so great. Was it worth it for them to be so dead set on him? Tang Guo also found something. Du Yumei was much more beautiful than before. Her skin was fairer and very smooth. Almost no pores could be seen. She was like a porcelain doll. At this moment, she finally understood. Li Fan must have given Du Yumei something like the beauty pill. Looking at Wu Shui again, it was the same. Her skin was so perfect that it didn't look like a real person. The other girls were also goddesses, but they couldn't be compared to the 2 of them. Li Fan seemed to feel Tang Guo sizing him up. He smiled, "Senior Tang, why do you keep looking at me? Is there a flower on my face?" Without waiting for Tang Guo to say anything, the other girls actually started to tease him. They asked if Tang Guo had taken a fancy to Li Fan. They even said that Li Fan, you already have such beautiful women like Wu Shui and Du Yumei, why do you still want to provoke Tang Guo? Tang Guo was surprised to find that the people in the carriage did not seem to be surprised by all this. They were not surprised that Li Fan had 2 girlfriends at the same time. It was as if Li Fan should have 2 girlfriends. However, she noticed something different. Ran Jingdan, who was sitting beside her, didn't look good. Seeing that the others were teasing Tang Guo and Li Fan, she mocked, "Tang Guo already has a fiancé, you guys should stop joking." Towards Li Fan, she was becoming more and more disgusted. Why would such a greasy man be liked by so many women? Was the heavens blind? Ran Jingdan seems to hate Li Fan. With such an attitude, how did she become Li Fan's woman? Tang Guo communicated with the system. She was so bad-tempered and arrogant. She really didn't look like someone who would give in to a man. The system couldn't answer. After all, the details of Li Fan accepting a woman weren't written in detail. Usually, this kind of emotional drama was very awkward. The woman that the male lead met, even if he didn't take her into his harem, would have to be alone for the rest of his life. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to recognize Mount Tai and would have a bad life. X767E, and X9540, and X4E00, and X4E0B, and X201C, quick crossover, female supporting character, calm down, and X722A, and X4E66, and X5C4B, and X201D, and X6700, and X65B0, and X7AE0, and X8282, and X7B2C, and X4E00, and X65F6, and X95F4, and X514D, and X8D39, and X9605, and X8BFB, and X3002, and X3002. Peak that you're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.